Tonight, we're at Mosaic Stadium for Wendy's Friday Night Football. Two teams in transition, the BC Lions and the Saskatchewan Roughriders, who will take the first step to assert themselves in the West. We have some of the best sounds from the preseason in our Sounds of the Game.
Let's go, Dave!
We doing it, right? We eating.
Brian Williams will have an in-depth look at the two sides of the Saskatchewan story.
You can't take 3 steps without somebody asking you about the Eric Tillman story.
Controversy and adversity have surrounded the Riders over the last year. And after 7 years in BC, Jason Claremont comes home.
It's a pleasure for me to introduce the newest member of the Saskatchewan Roughriders, Jason Claremont.
It's the Lions and the Riders. Friday Night Football. Next. There's Buck Pierce. He's back as the #1 man in BC. There's been no question about that for months. In Regina, one of the big questions is, how will Darian Durant do as the starter for the Roughriders? Is he ready to carry the load? We'll start to find out tonight on Wendy's Friday Night Football. Welcome to the first Friday night of a brand new season. We hope you got, everybody around, maybe the barbecue going, food out for the guests, the guys, the girls, some cold ones, perhaps. Hello, everybody. Dave Randolph, Jock Climbing, Matt Dunnigan, and Chris Schultz. It is Friday night. We are ready to go. You know, when the dust settled in the CFL's West Division a year ago, the BC Lions found themselves in 3rd place behind the Saskatchewan Roughriders. But it was the BC Lions that went into Regina and won the West semifinal. And tonight, the long march for these two teams begins again. We got kickoff just over a half hour away. Lots of ground to cover with all the boys. Brian Williams will be by as well. But we begin by taking you out to Mosaic Stadium, and there's a good look at the guys who are going to call the action tonight as we welcome Glenn Suter and Chris Cuthbert. Hi, guys.
Hi, David. And yes, it is the beginning of a long season for these two teams, but for Wally Buono, it's heading into the stretch drive in pursuit of one of the most prestigious marks in CFL history to become the winningest coach, and that will be one of the dominant storylines of the early season.
Without question, I think CFL football fans are living history with regards to Wally Buono, and we can take the word arguably out of the sentence that says he is the best coach in CFL history. The numbers just don't lie, and it's not just that he has 5 wins to go before becoming the winningest coach in the league's history, but it's how he's done it. 11 appearances in 19 seasons in first place, 11 finishes, 6 appearances in the Grey Cup. 3 of those, 8 appearances in the Grey Cup, 4 of which he has won, and of course 3 Coaches of the Year honors. It's the way he's done it, Chris, and people have to keep in mind that he's done it as not only the head coach, but every team he's been in, including the Calgary Stampeders in the early 90s, he was the GM and the head coach.
And he's had to make tough decisions. He raised eyebrows when he cut the great Alan Pitts, and I think he raised eyebrows back in December when he had to cut Jason Claremont, and one of the reasons for that, he had a new vision for the offense of the BC Lions.
Yeah, and that was to get a little faster at that inside slot position, and he feels that Paris Jackson is faster. A lot of people saying across this country that Paris Jackson should have a breakout season, his best season ever, because of the switch to the position. But that guy to the left of your screen should get more space because Paris Jackson, with that speed, is playing right beside him now. So look for G. Roy Simon to get a little more room.
Guys will be talking about the changes in BC, but Wally Buono reminds he did offer 16 contract extensions to veterans, and he feels that core will help him become the winningest coach all time sooner rather than later. Dave?
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Glenn. Yes, we will be talking about a significant change in BC in just a moment, but let's start with Saskatchewan, Schultz. And ever since Kerry Joseph left town, they are still trying to figure out who their #1 guy is. The #1 guy tonight is Darian Durant. Is he ready?
You know, this is going to be interesting, and I'm really looking forward to Darian Durant because last year I think there were 2 of those quarterbacks, Darian Durant. The first one was before he broke his ribs, and all you have to do to see how efficiently he played is to look at his base statistics before he had that injury. 67% completion, 5 touchdowns, and only 2 interceptions. That's pretty solid early in the season for a young quarterback. But then this play happened, and watch how physical this hit as the helmet breaks the ribs. Now, You can see the pain. You can see the agony. That's a legit injury. After that, his play fell off. Now it was 47% completion, only 2 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. What the Riders want is Darian Durant Part A to come back. How does he do that? Mentally, it's important. He can't feel the pass. He has to feel the pass rush. He can't see it. If he does that, you're going to see Darian Durant A.
Schultze, I'm going to crank it up a notch with the guy that plays the game with some serious reckless abandon, Buck Pierce. He's basically the CFL's version of Batman. We've seen it in his 4 apprenticing years leading up to this year when he takes over for the BC Lions. I'm talking about Buck Batman Pierce, and he plays a tough game, guys.
Batman.
And he's been taking a lot of hits. And last year, particularly in Edmonton, he got lit up. I'm talking about Batman style, too, and they were all over him. And he just kind of stood up to the metal, tested theirs, and showed his guys. And I can tell you, Buck Pierce is new and improved this offseason because of this abuse and the way he plays the game. He simply went off. He got bigger, stronger, faster. There's a great picture of the new Batman right there. Buck Pierce, he's about 215. He's healthy, and guys, I am hoping that we get a chance to see him play for 18 games because this is a special ball player.
Well, he's got a lot of new faces around him, and there's some people who wonder if that's a good thing, bad thing. What do you think?
You know, I like it.
Well, we were talking about his receiving core, right?
Yeah,
I mean, that's
right.
That's changed a lot. There's a lot of names. We're looking them up, trying to figure out who they are. But you know what? It's more the veterans that they've lost that a lot of people are wondering about. Wally Bono, you know what he's doing here? I mean, this is a football team that's won a lot of games. I mean, why did they need to have such wholesale changes this offseason? And yet, he's gone that route, and a lot of people like it. And there's a lot of big names that have now moved on. Let's look at a few of the biggest changes that we've seen here. And, hey, Cam Wake obviously is the number one change out of the lineup. 39 sacks in 2 years. Who's coming in for him? Ricky Foley. Hey, he's only got 8 sacks in that same time period. This York graduate, big shoes to fill. And the in the linebacking core, Otis Floyd. This guy was a staple in that lineup. Anton McKenzie comes over from Saskatchewan. This guy just loves to fly around and hit people. And how about Jason Claremont? Released in the offseason. Lots of people wondering if that was a good move. Obviously, he's going to be replaced, not by somebody new necessarily in Paris Jackson, but Paris Jackson is moving into that slot position, which is going to be a new role for him. He's going to see a lot more footballs. And, of course, we've got Rob Murphy and Kelly Basil on the offensive line who are also moved on and new guys coming in. So lots of changes, but there's guys in BC who think this is a good thing on that
Well, I don't know.
team.
Rob Murphy wanted to go to the east to be closer to his family. They live in South Florida now. He's in Toronto. Did they have to make these changes? Did he have to make these changes, Schultze?
You know, I think Wally Bono is the master of understanding that players reach a certain level and then he's going to have diminishing returns. This game, it's very tough on the guys because the minute by perception the coach doesn't feel you are going to be the best that you can possibly be, the coach has to make a decision and he's got to get rid of him. So I have confidence that he has made the right decision.
Because it's Wally Buono,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
You know, I was thinking that if this was Mike Kelly made a lot of changes in Winnipeg, but he wasn't letting guys of this caliber go. You know, I don't think Bombers had a lot of guys of this caliber, frankly. And if he had made those kind of changes, I think people would be all over Mike Kelly. Whereas it's Wally Buono. Oh, he knows what he's doing. He's
the biggest departure, obviously, is Cam Wake, who had 23 sacks a year ago. He's now working out as a linebacker with the Miami Dolphins, and they won't be seeing him back in BC anytime soon. But we'll see how Ricky Foley starts to fare tonight on Friday night. After the break, they've had the highs and the lows, all in 18 months. Brian Williams goes to Regina to explore the recent troubles.
It was absolutely storybook. And then all of a sudden this is what? Eric Tillman?
1, 2, 3. I know you're ready. I know you're ready. Let's go. What's up, Fitty? What's up? What's up, baby? There you go, little man. How about the linebackers out there, huh? What think about them backers out there? Hey, who's the linebacker there? Nando.
Hey, you know what I can do. You want to see what they can do. You gotta be an extra deep player, Mac. There's a big goal on the side. You understand?
Stand, put it back on.
A regular star of the sounds of the game, Mr. Nick Lewis. Those from the preseason. It only gets more intense as the season goes on here. It's the Lions and the Riders tonight on Wendy's Friday Night Football. Earlier this week, the Roughriders announced the hiring of former Bombers general manager Brendan Tammett as their new director of football administration. And the Riders were very quick to point out that while Brendan is a very experienced personnel guy, he is not hired as a GM in waiting. That job still belongs to Eric Tillman, despite some very serious legal issues surrounding Eric. And for more on that and trouble in Riderville over the last several months, it's a pleasure to welcome back to Friday Night, Mr. Brian Williams. Brian?
Thank you, David. Roughriders home to the BC Lions in just a few minutes. You know, since the Saskatchewan Roughriders won the Grey Cup over Winnipeg roughly 18 months ago, to quote our CFL insider David Naylor from the Globe and Mail, who will join me in just a minute, it has really been the best and worst of times. This franchise is financially strong, but it's faced unbelievable distractions both on and off the field. To find out more, I recently visited the city of Regina.
It's going to be a green Christmas. Knee down, game over. And the Saskatchewan Roughriders are the 2007 Grey Cup champions.
It was absolutely storybook. And then all of a sudden this. What? Eric Tillman?
After capturing their first Grey Cup in 18 years, 2007 was a dream season for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. But in 2008, things began to spiral. Kent Austin stepped down as head coach. MVP quarterback Kerry Joseph was traded, and devastating injuries were becoming a trend.
Boy, the injuries have mounted here in Saskatchewan, and this is one that they dearly can't afford.
This year, defensive coordinator Richie Hall left to become head coach of the Edmonton Eskimos. And Rider fans thought things couldn't get any worse. Their vice president and general manager Eric Tillman was charged in February with sexual assault involving a teenage girl.
You can't take 3 steps without somebody asking you about the Eric Tillman story. He just absolutely shocked the province, shocked the whole football community, and 4 months later, I still think that people are shaking their heads and trying to digest it.
This is a very serious charge. What do you say to people who phone you and say, look, he should have nothing to do with this football team. He should be on unpaid leave until this issue is settled one way or the other?
You've got to presume innocence until guilt is proven. Everyone deserves that opportunity, whether you're general manager of the Riders or you work in a different role. And the other thing is that he's a tremendous asset to the organization and brings a high level of expertise and ability. And for us to just throw that aside because some people are upset, I think would be very foolish as a business.
I think the precedent has been set in the organization where you are innocent until proven guilty, and I think that's healthy that the organization is I think, tempering its reaction to this.
I think Jim Hopson and Rob Plesch, the chairman of the club, have handled this well. You know, Eric is innocent until proven guilty. The matter is with the courts right now, and once it's decided by the courts, we'll cast our judgment then.
Eric Tillman goes to trial next January, but as I understand it, he's still running this team, is that right?
He is our general manager. We have not relieved him of his duties. He has been placed on administrative leave, which essentially means that he's been working from home.
I talk with him by telephone every day, and occasionally I drop by his house for a sit-down meeting, and we're able to conduct business.
But the Tillman situation isn't going away. It will hang over the Roughriders all season. And the question some people are asking is, because of who he is and his role in the community, is Eric Tillman getting preferential treatment?
People think that he's just been untouchable and he's been Teflon. So I think the question intensifies when you're talking about it in this context. And it's something I've asked myself quite frequently, because Eric Tillman is great with the media. He's great with the public. Am I giving Eric Tillman a free pass? Is the public at large giving him a free pass? Is the organization giving him a free pass? But I think the larger question is, has this case been heard? Has the truth come out on either side before the courts? And I think that has to be respected above all else, and let's see what happens in January.
And as promised, our CFL insider from the Globe and Mail, Dave Naylor, joins me. You've lived in Regina, but you know, when I look at the money they're making, and we've just seen all they've faced.
Well, this team I don't think has ever been more popular in its long history than it is right now. Games seem to sell out instantly. They coming off their first ever season sellout. They've made profits of $1.5 million 2 years in a row. And yet the things we just seen, that they're dealing with Richie Hall, their longtime defensive coordinator, a guy who spent about 20 years in the organization. Of course, Kent Austin after the Grey Cup. It's been 16 months since Kerry Joseph was traded. They still don't know that they have a proven quarterback there to replace him. It seems that the team means so much, it matters so much, that even though not all the news on the field has been good, it's still engaging to everybody. It still matters as much as anyone.
Very quickly, you mentioned this to me, I think, last Labor Day in Hamilton. Can the resurrection, if you will, of the province economically, is that tied in with the football, would you think?
Well, I think it is, because I think it's part of the feel in the province. I mean, I say, having lived in Saskatchewan in the mid-1990s, when the team was down and the economy was down, you know, there was kind of a feeling that you weren't winning the game. And I think the same way you are winning the game economically in the province and real estate values going up and then winning a Grey Cup on the field, that there is a synergy between the way people feel about their lives and the way they feel about their football team, no question.
Some thoughts on a very tough situation, the Eric Tillman situation. He is innocent till proven guilty, but there is an alleged victim here, too.
Well, yeah, and I think what people who outside of Saskatchewan may be tough to realize is just there is not a more recognizable face in the province than Eric Tillman. So, you know, when anybody in a public role is involved in something, it's tough for everyone involved. And in the case of Eric Tillman, there is nobody of a higher profile than the general manager of the Saskatchewan Roughriders at this point in time. I think what everybody would like is for this to be over, and one way or the other, and just be done with it. Eric is involved with the football team. They're being transparent that he's involved with the football team, meeting with the coaches. I guess the question is, does this have an effect on the organization as a whole? Can you get through this without it affecting the way the players perform, the way people feel about the organization?
That's a big question. It's going to be interesting to see. Speaking of players, one of the most popular Saskatchewan University players ever, Jason Claremont, cut by the BC Lions, is back playing in just a few minutes against the Lions. And David, still to come, my conversation with Jason Claremont.
Brian, Dave, thank you very much. Jock, as most of our viewers would know by now, you are a lawyer. And, you know, we see the headlines, such as the one that was in that piece there, Tillman charged with sexual assault. So you've looked into the charges here. Can you bring some clarity to it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a labor lawyer now, but I did do a criminal law early in my career, and I had a chance to talk to Eric Tillman and get a better understanding of what's going on. I think it's important that people understand. I mean, first, any criminal charge, if you're being charged criminally, whether it's shoplifting or anything at the higher end, is serious. But you have to understand that sexual assault is a range. And from what I understand of the allegations, these allegations fall about as low at the end of the range as one can fall, at the low end, as I said. And so, for Eric, this is a very frustrating situation for him. I'm sure he'd love to have this out and have everybody understand exactly what is happening here, but obviously with a court process coming up, he has to respect that. But the Crown is proceeding summarily precisely because it's a relatively minor charge in the sexual assault range, and that's why he's still running the football team. And people have to understand, I don't think the Saskatchewan Roughriders would have Eric still running this football team if there was something really serious looming on the horizon. So anyway, I think we all, you know, hope the system, as David Naylor said, hopes the system resolves this quickly so everyone can get on with it.
And that system will run its course when Eric makes his court appearance in January of 2010. It's the Lions and the Riders tonight on Friday Night Football. Still to come, discarded in BC, but welcomed with open arms in Rider country.
Jason, he is just such a warrior.
Brian Williams sits down with the newest acquisition in Regina, Jason Claremont. Welcome back. Getting close to kickoff in Regina between the BC Lions and the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Last night on the CFL on TSN, the Edmonton Eskimos got their first win of the season, but they lost their star running back. Their big free agent signing, Jesse Lumsden, suffered a shoulder injury. Jennifer Hedger is here with the news on that.
That's right, Dave. Thanks a lot. I guess Rob Black actually said it best. If it wasn't for bad luck, Jesse Lumsden would have no luck at all. Here's a guy who had 4 injury-plagued seasons with the Hamilton Ticats. Looks for a fresh start in Edmonton. Didn't even last a full quarter. Lumsden suffered a dislocated shoulder last night against the Bombers. An MRI will reveal any damage. 26-year-old out indefinitely.
I feel for Jesse. I know that he's worked really hard rehabbing and, you know, declared fit by our medical staff when he made it here to training camp. And, you know, we're just looking for a promising season.
So is he. We will have a full report out of Edmonton tonight on SportsCenter. Myself and Brian Mudryk Plus, highlights from the Jays. They're in New York. Their first game in the new stadium, all coming up tonight after Friday Night Football. Dave, back to you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Well, he was the 4th overall pick by the BC Lions in the 2002 CFL draft. 7 years he played for the BC Lions, and now he's wearing the green and white. For more on that story, big one tonight. Here again is Brian.
Thank you, Dave. Having recently spent time in Saskatchewan, there's no question the big story heading into tonight's game is the homecoming of Jason Claremont. He starred at Robert Usher High School in Regina, was a star with the University of Regina Rams, of course had 7 years in BC. Wally Buono and the Lions said he was too slow. The Roughriders say, don't believe it. I had a chance to visit with Jason Claremont. For Jason Claremont, it all began here at Robert Usher Collegiate in northern Regina. The football field is now empty, as are the classrooms, the latter a victim of municipal cutbacks 3 years ago. But for Claremont, the lessons remain.
Playing football at Robert Usher was an opportunity for me to focus on the academic and the athletic portions of school. Without that, I wouldn't have graduated from university, and I'd probably still be pumping gas at the Petro-Canada on Vic and Winnipeg.
Claremont parlayed his high school football experience into a starring role with the University of Regina Rams.
Oh, what a catch! Jason Claremont!
The lessons of Robert Usher were evident as Claremont's hard-nosed mentality translated into success. The Regina football community loved him, and more importantly, coveted him.
Ever since he graduated from the University of Regina Rams, people have been hoping that they would trade up in the draft and be able to get him. When that didn't happen, there were 7 years in BC, and he was winning a Grey Cup in BC and being named Outstanding Rookie, Outstanding Canadian, and people thought, gee, couldn't that have happened here?
The image of Claremont in a Riders uniform remained a dream for 7 long years, as Claremont sacrificed his body for a province other than his own.
Jason Claremont! Oh! What a hit delivered!
And he gets up and says, didn't bother me a bit.
But last December, the BC Lions cut Jason Claremont, and the Riders wasted no time.
It's a pleasure for me to introduce the newest member of the Saskatchewan Roughriders, Jason Claremont. Jason.
In our province, it used to be the running joke that our best export was our people, and I think the people are coming back.
It was massive. Suddenly, number 82 Rough Rider jerseys started selling in huge quantities, despite the fact that it hadn't been worn yet on the field.
The question now is, can Claremont still produce? Or is he the slot back Lions head coach Wally Buono decided wasn't quick enough for his system?
We wanted to be a little faster out there, and obviously that meant we had to change the kind of person that played that position. And fortunately for us, we had a guy like Paris Jackson.
I can't control what somebody else says or feels. I mean, obviously, I was good enough to be on that football team for 7 years, and he felt that way, and so whatever he says now to justify his decision, that's up to him.
But the Riders' decision was easy. They believe Claremont represents more than yards and touchdowns. Let me ask you about Jason Claremont. You're smiling when I mention his name.
well, Jason is just such a warrior. He's a man of great character, great leadership. He performs on the field. He's a great role model for young people. He's a great role model for our young players.
Claremont's career has come full circle. He now volunteers his time with sport initiatives across Saskatchewan, assisting the province that has nourished him since high school.
I'm looking forward now to trying to give back and develop organizations in sport and do what I can on the administration side of that. So you just need to be able to open doors and provide opportunities for young people, and if you give them decisions and opportunities, they're going to make the right decision.
I've talked to thousands of athletes over the past 35, 40 years. I don't think I've ever seen one that is neither high nor low. He just seems to have the right attitude, the right level of intensity all the time.
Thanks, Brian. One of the all-time great riders, Ray Elgard, a rider, a receiver that Claremont's often compared to, played all his career in Regina, grew up in Vancouver. Lions fans often thought, wouldn't it be great if he could maybe end his career as a BC Lion? Never happened, and now Claremont's got that chance to put a nice bow on his career. Time now to introduce you to the starting quarterbacks, brought to you by Wendy's and the Baconator, the official hamburger of the CFL. Buck Pierce was given the #1 title months ago. Darian Durant will be the guy for the Riders tonight.
Anytime's great for football, but I know when it feels just right. We're gonna kick back and relax. Football on a Friday night. It's Friday, and we're gonna be hard to tame. It's Friday, coast to coast, the CFL is Canada's game. And we're all contact to party, and we're ready for a fight.
Leroy Simon, touchdown. Play action, throwing, touchdown.
It's Friday night football tonight. It's Friday. It's Friday night football tonight. It's Friday.
There's Wally Buono, 5 wins away from becoming the CFL's all-time winningest coach. Ricky Foley from Curtis, Ontario, has to fill the big shoes left by Cam Wake, who's gone to the NFL. There's Anton McKenzie. He used to play for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Tonight, he's on the other side of the BC Lions as we are wrapping up week #1 on a Friday night with the BC Lions and the Saskatchewan Roughriders for the next 19 weeks. Friday, or Schultze. Where are you going to be?
Right here with
right
you,
here.
baby.
That's right.
Yes.
Manny and Jock and Dave Randolph, and here we go on a Friday night. And, you know, there's almost always a change to a football team at this time of year. Some teams more than others, and for lots of different reasons. And no more challenging is it in BC, where they've lost some big-time personnel. We'll see how that works out starting tonight. We told you about the starting quarterbacks during our pregame show. Darian Durant, Buck Pierce, but the backups could be crucial, huh, Jock?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everybody knows that Giles and Durant split a lot of time last year, and so did Jarris Jackson and Buck Pierce. In fact, I don't think there are two teams in the CFL who will rely more on their backups than these two football teams, and we shouldn't forget about that. I mean, the reality is that, Wally Buono's been known to have to put Jarris Jackson in the game, either because Buck Pierce is hurt, which happens a fair bit, or because he's just not playing well. And the same thing goes on the other side of the football. Coach Miller showed a real propensity to pulling his quarterbacks. They might throw one interception or a bad throw, boom, the quick hook comes out, and in goes Giles. And so, hey, I think that we might see all 4 quarterbacks potentially in this game.
Well, I know that Buck Pierce is going to miss Jason Claremont, and it's nice that they've moved Paris Jackson inside, and it gives them 2 good weapons there. But by losing Jason Claremont, you've got to find a Canadian that can step up and replace his production that we've seen over the last 7 years, and that falls on O'Neal Wilson and Greg Hetherington. And here you see O'Neal Wilson. He's got some big shoes to fill, and he needs to step up. And I can tell you that we're going to have to find some. I said we, as in the BC Lions, is going to have to find some production from the receiver, Schultze, and it's got to be soon.
And so does the quarterback for the Riders. #1 story, Darian Durant, how he will play. #2 story, defensive coordinator Gary Echeverry. The compliment is that he's amazingly aggressive on quarterbacks. The criticism is that he's amazingly aggressive on quarterbacks. Will they ride the defensive wave with that defensive coordinator attacking quarterbacks and making the issue the turnover ratio? We'll find out.
Season opener is always exciting for every team, and especially once you're a home opener as well, and that's exactly the situation for the Riders tonight. It will be another full house at Mosaic Stadium, green and white all over the stands, and here they come. Sit back and relax. Wendy's Friday Night Football is back. Ida Paluga of Vancouver, you could win a 2009 Nissan Rogue SL if a kickoff is returned for a touchdown in tonight's game. Thanks to Safeway's Touchdown to Win promotion, and if a second kickoff is returned for a touchdown, you could also win $1 million. Let's take it to Regina. Here again, Chris Cuthbert and Glenn Suter.
Thank you, Dave. You're watching TSN, proud home of the Canadian Football League and the 2009 Grey Cup game. Well, you know it's a big game when number 27's on the ticket, the 20th anniversary of the 1989 Grey Cup champions, and our 13th season of Friday Night Football will kick off before an anticipated sellout crowd at Mosaic Stadium, a Western semifinal rematch. There is rain in the forecast, but wind will not be a factor as these two teams tangle. Wally Buono beginning his 20th year, and it's our first look at his revamped Lions, while on the other sideline it's Ken Miller. In his second year as the head man, a dozen wins last year, and hoping to be able to match that or do even better with a roster that's already got a lot of injuries.
Well, and of course, Wally Buono, 5 wins away from becoming the winningest coach in CFL history. See if he can get that first one here in a very tough place to win at Mosaic Stadium.
There's the former Rough Rider, Paul McCallum, has it on the tee. We're underway. And it will be Eric Morris, the newcomer, fielding the football just inside his 20. Morris finds a seam, and a good burst out to the 40-yard line for Morris. And brought down by Gary Butler as Damien Durant is the starting quarterback for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. 4 starts last year, 4-0 as the starter.
Wes Cates, the starting running back from a year ago, is about 3 games away from returning from injury. So Hugh Charles starts in the backfield. Of course, everyone talking about the first game for Jason Claremont as a Saskatchewan Roughrider, and an offensive line that's lost Gene Mikowski and Wayne Smith in camp.
Big to Hugh Charles. Durant looking for Claremont, and they tried for the storybook start. Looking deep for the Regina native Jason Claremont, incomplete.
Lots of changes on the defensive side of the ball for the BC Lions heading into the 2009 season. Of course, Cameron Wake is with the Miami Dolphins. Ricky Foley replaces him at defensive end. Jeremy Gibbs in for Tyrone Williams in the middle. They're only going to play with 2 linebackers tonight, not one of them being Anton McKenzie, former Saskatchewan Roughrider. That's because they're playing 6 in the secondary.
4-2-6 defense for the Lions. 2nd and 10, and there's Weston Dressler with a first down catch up at the 52-yard line. Brought down by the newcomer, Darren Toney, in that Lions secondary.
Rookie season, the outstanding rookie Weston Dressler with over 1,000 yards, 56 catches in his first campaign in the Saskatchewan Roughriders, and open over the middle. Try and give Darian Durant, who is 4-0 as a starter, a little confidence early on here.
Dressler moves to the outside with the addition of Claremont as Hugh Charles takes the football again without Wes Cates. Charles gets the call. He had 64 yards in the preseason. And Anton McKenzie, the former Rough Rider, and Jeremy Gibbs on the tackle.
Well, there was only about a dozen articles on Jason Claremont and the new jersey he'll be wearing this season. That the Saskatchewan Roughriders, where he played his minor football, played for the Rams. 7 seasons in BC, but Saskatchewan wanted him back, and they got him, and he looks great.
It'll be 2nd and short. Charles bouncing off the right side. And a first down to the BC 43-yard line for Hugh Charles.
Hugh Charles played in a couple games last year, did not get any starts because of the performance of Wes Cates, who, as I mentioned, is probably will return to the team in week 3. He's still recovering from that shoulder injury, but Hugh Charles, 5.6-yard average when he did rush the football in 2008.
Jeremy O'Day, the outstanding center. Tom Pete, trophy winner with the block. And now pressure on Durant, and there's Rob Bagg with the catch and another first down. And the Roughriders rolling on this opening drive.
All kinds of questions, Chris, for the Saskatchewan fans as to whether or not Darian Durant could handle the starting quarterback duties. Ken Miller said through training camp, Durant was the lead rabbit, meaning that there was a bunch of wolves chasing him in the form of Stephen Giles and Dalton Bell, the backup quarterbacks. Juan Joseph was also here and released, but Darian Durant gets the nod and looks good in this first drive.
They wanted him to be more in command this year. He certainly does on this opening drive. Look out! And Durant drops the ball. Corey Banks off the edge, and he separates Darian Durant from the football. And turnovers, which were costly in the West Semi. On the opening drive here, BC forces another. 7 takeaways for the Lions defense last year in the West semi, and the first one comes less than 3 minutes into this game.
Corey Banks moves to the nickel position this year, and there he is right back there. He pretends like he's covering Jason Claremont, and then he comes off the edge. Darian Durant looking the opposite direction, never sees him coming.
Avi Glatt recovers the football. First down for the Lions at the 35 with Buck Pierce at the controls. And there's the newcomer, Emmanuel Arsenault. The Lions excited about their new vertical threat at wideout.
Well, he's a good route runner. He was the leading receiver in the preseason with 9 catches, 103 yards. And even though it's a shortened preseason, he showed enough to make the starting lineup on opening night.
Just 21 years of age, Wally Bono says he's got a chance to be special. First down, Pierce, quick hitter, not off the hands of Arsenault. Unfortunately for the Lions, not intercepted.
Wally Buono, for the first time in his 20 years as a head coach, named his starting quarterback in the offseason. That was in February when he named Buck Pierce the starter. There's Arsenault in the receiving corps. Of course, Paris Jackson moves inside to replace Jason Claremont. No Rob Murphy. It's Walter Stith, and Dean Valley is in for Kelly Bates.
Starting lineup brought to you by Nissan, fan and proud sponsor of the CFL. It's 2nd and 10 from the 50. And here comes the heat up. Pierce, that ball's loose. And Stevie Baggs is up with the football. Eddie Davis knocked it loose, and Baggs gets up and now is down. So they trade fumble recoveries as the quarterbacks get jolted early. And it's Saskatchewan football when we come back. Wild start, game just over 4 minutes old. They've traded turnovers. Saskatchewan back to the attack. And there is the catch by Jason Claremont.
Gary Etcheverry is the new defensive coordinator here in Saskatchewan. You can see he's going to have Stevie Baggs go upfield, and underneath that from the secondary, you're going to see Eddie Davis, the veteran of 15 seasons in the CFL, track down Buck Pierce and get him right in the back. So different formation defensively already for the Riders, and they provide the pressure.
Claremont's first catch is a Rough Rider, a 5-yard gain, 2nd and 5, better protection. And that pass is caught, and it's a first down. Andy Fantews, an injury-plagued season last year. He played just 7 games. But with Fantews, Claremont, and Dressler, plenty of offensive threat for Darian Durant.
There is Andy Fantews, and you can see how happy Darian Durant is with his receiving corps this year. When I asked him about his receiving corps, his eyes lit up. He said, hey, we have the potential to have a real good one with the addition of Claremont and Fantews being healthy again.
First down, Charles the handoff, straight ahead, drops it. The Lions, did they get back on it? Charles looks like he fought to get the football back. And we'll wait as they unpile. Look, the Lions had a shot at it. And it was Anton McKenzie who caused the fumble.
These two teams met 3 times in the regular season. Of course, in the West semifinal, all those games were physical affairs. The Riders won just 1 of the 4. And this one early on has been physical as well with these turnovers.
The ruling on the field is Saskatchewan's ball. 2nd down.
Pretty good fight underneath that pile. Wally Buono thought his team had it, but Charles gets it back.
And I think once again, Anton McKenzie, the former Saskatchewan Roughrider, is in on it. Yeah, he makes first contact and strips the ball, but Charles going to fight back for it. Wally Buono feels he got the best of the free agent linebackers in Anton McKenzie.
So from the 10, 2nd down, quarterback draw. Durant to the goal line, touchdown. Well, they make good the 2nd time they get the football, and Darian Durant caps it.
Well, Darian Durant, this was a called play for Saskatchewan. He was going to run that draw from start to finish, and it worked out well by formation because the Lions had Anton McKenzie up in the line. That opened up a running lane for Durant. Boy, he lowered his shoulder to get that extra yard.
Off the center, off the center.
Out of the Kerry Joseph playbook, Darian Durant has given Saskatchewan the lead. Roughriders up by 7. So 5 plays, 29 yards. And Darian Durant with the opening touchdown of the game on that 11-yard run.
Durant, Chris, has got off to a real good start here tonight. I mean, you can't fault him for the Corey Banks forced fumble when he came off the edge and that turnover. He's played quite well early on.
That ball hops over Martel Mallett, rolling deep into the end zone. And Ian Smart will concede a signal, and it's an 8-point Saskatchewan lead as Mallett and Smart confer over that miscommunication.
You mentioned the quarterback draw being a favorite play of the Saskatchewan Roughriders. In a quarterback draw defensively, it's usually the linebackers that have to make the play, and you can see Anton McKenzie gets caught up in the line, and Javi Glad is looking in the wrong direction. That's what's going to open up the running lane for Darian Durant. A called play. Glad was looking to the left, didn't get there in time. Anton McKenzie was swallowed up by the offensive line. Durant finds the end zone.
So Buck Pierce back to work from the 35. And here is Ian Smart at running back with the departure of Stefan Logan. Smart will share that duty with Martel Mallett.
Defensively for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, Scott Schultz, the 9-year veteran, will anchor that defensive line. No Kitwana Jones off the edge, so Stevie Baggs will replace him. There's a linebacking core that's gone over a transformation. Ray Williams will play in the middle, along with the former DB Tad Cornegie, and there's Eddie Davis in the secondary, and they'll go with a Canadian on the corner and Donovan Alexander.
Gary Etcheverry, the new defensive coordinator for Saskatchewan, second and short, and Pierce with that quick hitter to the new slot, Paris Jackson in front of Eddie Davis for a BC first down.
Well, everyone wondering what Gary Etcheverry in his second year in Saskatchewan, promoted the defensive coordinator, will do with this defense. Of course, the coordinator for years here in Saskatchewan was Richie Hall, who is now the head coach with the Edmonton Eskimos.
Well, we saw an example of the first defensive series when he sent Eddie Davis. They were vanilla in the preseason, but they'll show the package. There's G. Roy Simon taken down by Omar Morgan. Short gain for the Lions.
Gary Etcheverry has been a coordinator before. He's been a coordinator in BC, in Saskatchewan at a previous time, and in Toronto. His last coordination job was in 2004 with the Renegades in Ottawa. So he has the experience, brings some different looks.
Roughriders go to a 3-man front as Stevie Baggs checks out. Second down and 8. Pressure! Pierce goes down. Luke Mullender gets to the quarterback. And they've applied pressure on the opening 2 Lion series.
I'll show you about different formations as we talk about Gary Etcheverry. There's 1, 2 right here, 2 in the stack, and then 1 on the outside for 5 on the line, but not conventional. You usually see 5 across the board, really taking up the gap. So the offensive line for the BC Lions are really not sure which guy they have to block, and Luke Mullender comes straight free.
So McCallum, line drive boot. Eric Morris is back. Shed 1 tackle, but then brought down. Turnanandi with the tackle after a 43-yard punt. Welcome back to Regina. On the sidelines at Mosaic is Ray Morrison.
Chris, Buck Pierce enjoys coming to Mosaic Stadium. Cut his teeth at a preseason game here in 2005, and in 4 regular season appearances, 3 in relief and 1 start, he has not thrown 1 interception. He has thrown 3 touchdown passes and run in for 2, and has not thrown a pick. So we'll see how he deals with the early adversity with Saskatchewan's defense playing so well when they get back on the field.
Similar storylines for Pierce and Durant, as Durant with a nice play-action fake, taking off and into there's a marker on the play and a fumble as Darren Toney picks up the ball. And yet another turnover in this wacky first quarter.
Well, they're forced fumbles rather than mistakes by the most part here in this first quarter, because a couple of blitzes have caused some fumbles on both sides. And Darien Durant taking off running there. He was hit when that ball came out again.
27-yard run, but then Baron Miles strips the football. And will the Darren Toney fumble recovery stand? It's like Corey Banks doesn't like what they're talking about. And it is against the Lions.
Illegal contact on the receiver. BC number 24. 10-yard penalty. First down.
That's why Corey Banks didn't like it.
Corey Banks moves to the nickel position, the extra defensive back in the secondary for the Lions. Darren Toney made the team in training camp out of Arkansas, so he will play halfback with Banks. You can see him right in the middle of your screen, number 24. A little push, and then he grabbed the jersey of Andy Fantus.
So it is a first down at the 38-yard line, and Dressler with the end around, trying to get to the corner. Bobby Clanton there to jar him out after a short gain.
Big penalty, though, against Corey Banks early in this game, because it essentially takes away a turnover for the BC Lions, and they would have not only turned the ball over, but had it in great positive scoring position.
Third possession for the Riders, and they've put the ball on the carpet on each possession. Lost it on the opening. Hugh Charles got back his fumble, and a penalty negates the Durant fumble. So 2nd and 8 for the Roughriders at the 40. And Durant has Fantus up at the 50-yard line. It's a first down for Andy Fantus.
To show the kids watching this game how important a receiver it is to catch the football with your hands and to come back to it. Don't wait for the football to come to you. Watch Andy Fantus run this simple little curl and take that extra step right there back and then catch the ball reaching for it with his hands. That way when Javi Glad hit him, he was able to absorb the blow.
Already 3 catches for him. Like Jason Claremont, one of his earlier catches. First down, Durant with time, and that one picked off by Ryan Phillips. And Phillips, who ran one back in the Western semifinal, has done it again. A 58-yard touchdown for Ryan Phillips. Led the CFL in interceptions 2 years ago with 12. Only had 1 last year, but off to a terrific start tonight.
And it is very quiet here at Mosaic Stadium all of a sudden as Ryan Phillips, 12 interceptions, as you mentioned, in 07. Had an off year in 08 with regards to the turnover, and he just reads Darien Durant, who telegraphed that one, jumps in the hole, and pretty good running ability with the football after the interception. He's off and running in 09.
McCallum for the extra point makes it a 1-point Rider lead. And that BC Lion defense, the pressure defense, comes up big again.
Well, Ryan Phillips, watch how he is just going to play off the receiver with his eyes back to the play, back to the quarterback. And as soon as Getzlaff chops his feet and turns that curl, Phillips jumps it. That's the experience of Ryan Phillips, All-Canadian in 07. And the first interception for him in the 2009 season.
The BC Lions led the Canadian Football League in takeaways last year with 60. And Ryan Phillips savors it as he watches his own celebration on the big screen.
Everybody watching back at home, I told y'all, we're going to make it happen. This year's a new year, baby. It's time to make it happen. Hey, Suter, you know what I need. Glenn, you know what I need. Suter, you my boy. You know what I need. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, it's starting already. And it is Friday night.
It is Friday night. And there is a Movado watch on the line for the gladiator of this game, Ryan Phillips. You've got to believe in early after that play A front runner already.
There's the secondary coach, Mark Washington.
But I'll tell you, Chris, if the BC Lions, at least early in the season, are going to be successful on defense, they will have to lean on their secondary. It's a veteran group. It's an all-star group. They've had changes in their front six. Going with 6 back in the back end.
There's Morris on the return. And a short return for Eric Morris. Jerome Dennis down first for the BC Lions.
You look at this secondary for the BC Lions. In the 5 returning defensive backs, and I'm not including Darren Toney in that group, but the 5 returning defensive backs, they have 9 CFL All-Star honors. And Mark Washington is their coach, a former defensive back, coaching the secondary right now, and teammate of Baron Miles. But 9 CFL All-Stars, 16 divisional All-Stars between them.
Wally Buono told us yesterday, maybe the best group he has ever had in his 20 years. Durant swings it out. Here's Charles with a nice cutback. Hugh Charles into the secondary. 1 man to beat. And Darren Toney will ride him out at the 34-yard line. Well, they'd love to have Wes Cates, but Hugh Charles has looked good early.
And Charles steps up in the line here like he's going to block, and then flares out of the backfield with just a real high percentage simple pass to get Darian Durant some confidence back in a hurry, and a bunch of yak yards for Hugh Charles.
Chris Getzlaff with a block. That was an area that Mike Benavides was trying to clean up. He called them hidden yards, said they averaged 40 yak yards against last year and wanted to cut the total. That's a 45-yard pickup by Hugh Charles, and now the draw play, and here's Stu Ford, and he runs into his old teammate Anton McKenzie.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Saskatchewan run the ball a lot tonight, because the Lions have really converted to 6 in the front, what used to be called 7, the front 7. Now they're just going to play with basically 2 linebackers all night long. That'll put Corey Banks down low, which means Saskatchewan will test them. They will test to see if Corey Banks can handle the run a little bit. They're running the ball right now.
Stu Ford had a 2-touchdown game against the Lions here a year ago. 5 on that carry. 2nd and 5 with a quick slant in, and Dressler's got it and should have the first down. Well, let's see the spot. Not generous, and it looks like it's going to be a little short, as Darian Durant shows Ken Miller how far they've got to go.
A lot of teams are going to the defensive back, smaller linebackers now because of the spread offenses. Ken Miller has done it with Tad Cornegay. He's moved him down from the secondary to the linebacking core, and of course we mentioned the BC Lions doing it as well.
Pretty good response for Darian Durant after the interception for a touchdown. Ken Miller leaves the offense on the field.
Offense and defense usually go in cycles, and at times you get big power backs, and then it changes and you go to spread offenses, and the defenses have to continue to evolve. And right now the trend is smaller linebackers that can run and cover, and that's why Corey Banks is now essentially a nickel, but essentially a linebacker in rundowns as well. So he's got to bow up, ready to take on some of those pulling guards every now and then, which isn't fun as a DB.
He's making an adjustment to the yardsticks on the sidelines. It'll be 3rd and less than a yard. I was going to ask you about, I mean, quarterbacks always see extra DBs in, but maybe the interception part of Durant's adjustment to a defense he hasn't seen much before?
Yeah, no question. I mean, they're flying around different spots. So.
An early movement on that line. Durant saying that BC may have done something to cause the jump. Aaron Wagner was one of those that moved prematurely, the converted linebacker to fullback. But they are calling it against Saskatchewan.
They'll have to kick a field goal now. That takes them too far away from a gamble here. Yeah, and once you're down in that 3-point stance, which means your 2 feet and the hand on the ground as an offensive lineman, you cannot lift that hand back off the ground.
Mark Baronto.
3-player move prior to the ball being snapped. 5-yard penalty. Still third down.
Mark Bronto, one of them at right guard. Clearly there was movement beforehand, but I think what the Riders are saying is somebody might have barked on that BC front to cause the movement. So Luka Kaji, who led the Canadian Football League in field goal percentage last year, is on, and he tucks that one in. 86.4% a year ago. And now the Roughriders have a 4-point lead.
Changes for the Saskatchewan Roughriders in this offseason. Of course, everyone talking about Jason Claremont, who should fill in a leadership role with Matt Dominguez out of that receiving core. Of course, linebackers getting a lot of press in the offseason. Maurice Lloyd signs a free agent in Edmonton. Anton McKenzie here with the Lions, and that's why Tad Cornegay moves up to linebacker, and that's Ray Williams, who they're very high on, play middle linebacker for Maurice Lloyd here in Saskatchewan. And you know, a lot of people were ruling Saskatchewan completely out of this season, saying that, hey, it's going to be a tough year for them. But with the leadership of Claremont, if Darian Durant plays very well, and he has so far early in this one, and no one thought they'd go 6-0 last year either.
6-0 with 4 different quarterbacks winning games in the opening couple of months. We should also mention that injuries have caused some other changes. Without Gene Makowski and Wayne Smith, Makowski for about a month it's expected with a knee injury, and Wayne Smith probably for the season with an Achilles tear, and those are 2 frontline offensive linemen.
Yeah, Bobby Harris, an import from Ole Miss, in at tackle, and Chris Best at guard. So that's the replacements for Gene Makowski and Wayne Smith.
Jamie Borum, another good boot. Ian Smart from his 1. Jolted as across the 20-yard line, and Smart is smarting after that. Kai Stewart with the jolt. That's one of the reasons why Wally Buono didn't want Ian Smart doing double duty.
He doesn't see this hit coming either, because he's looking to the left side of that return. And Williams puts his helmet, or Stewart, I should say, puts his helmet right in the thigh area and abdomen area of Ian Smart. So Martel Mallett, the rookie, had a pretty impressive preseason, will have to come in at running back.
And this is precisely why Wally Buono didn't want to give full-time special teams and running back duties to one player. And while we have the opportunity, let's take a look at the changes on the Lions side, including the departure of Stephon Logan and Cameron Wake to the National Football League.
Yeah, Stephon Logan will signed and will be in Pittsburgh Steelers camp. Cameron Wake in Miami. Rob Murphy at Toronto Argonauts. So Foley replaces Wake. You see Walter Stith in for Rob Murphy. And the guy who was supposed to replace Stephon Logan is Ian Smart as the starter. He's now getting medical attention on the sideline, and Martel Mallett, the rookie, now will have to take some early reps here.
So Martel Mallett in, 73 yards rushing in the preseason against Edmonton. 7 different backs were in camp vying for the duties. And now Mallett gets a chance to show what he can do. It's a nice start, running over people up to the 40-yard line before Stevie Baggs finally brings him down.
And there was quite a competition at the running back position, 6 or 7 deep in training camp, and Martel Mallett survived it. You mentioned his preseason. He only had a couple of carries in the Calgary game, but he did have the 6 against Edmonton, as you mentioned, and 3 catches in that game for 39 yards. I think that's really what helped get him that jersey and make the squad in opening night.
Still talk that Tyler Ebell may be on his way to BC. A former Eskimo cut loose by Toronto. And here's a ball dropped by Paris Jackson, making the adjustment inside where he knows there's going to be more traffic.
Sure, and he'll be able to handle that traffic in his 7th season. Last year was his first 1,000-yard year, and I know the Lions, the expectations for Paris Jackson, no matter where he played, was for another 1,000-yard season, but he should help Geroy Simon playing inside. He can use, Paris Jackson can use his speed to open up some more room for Geroy Simon as this season goes on.
Raleigh Lambala checks in and pull back. He goes in motion, 2nd and 10. Now comes back in for protection, and that ball for Ryan Price-Mullen, incomplete.
Tad Cornegay, and this is the converted defensive back to linebacker for Saskatchewan. And this is the upside of having a linebacker who's small and DB size at 6 foot 185 and has the speed to get out and underneath a throw like that, because Tad Cornegay was the reason that was incomplete.
Newcomer Eric Morris is deep, awaiting the McCallum kick. That is 30. And upended at the 38-yard line.
That defense is, that's Tad Cornegay, who's playing, as I mentioned, and really a lot of teams going to this with more defensive backs in the linebacking core, because if you put Corey Banks for BC back there, what you do is you can do so many things in coverage. They can drop in zones. You can play 2 deep safeties and the halfbacks down low. Lots of combinations. Now, if you move him back up into what is the traditional front 7, now Corey Banks has to be bigger on the run, but he can also blitz. And remember, in the first quarter, he blitzed off the edge and caused a fumble.
Darian Durant back at the controls, the out. Yeah, that's caught by the newcomer, Chris Jones.
The other thing about having Corey Banks there, I talked to Mike Benavides, the defensive coordinator. He said that Corey Banks, of all the football players he's scouted and coached, he believes that Corey Banks has the best football sense of any of those players that he's coached. And Mike Benavides, who was up for the Toronto job for Bart Andrews, got it.
How about Milt Stiegel's endorsement of Corey Banks? There's Rob Bagg with a crossing route that he's brought down right at the first down stick. We'll see where the ball is marked. Anton McKenzie with another tackle. And there's the kid out of Queens in his second year, Rob Bagg.
You know, I think that Darian Durant so far has looked pretty confident. You know, I had a long conversation with him yesterday and asked him how he felt, you know, and he said this is his 3rd year really in the system offensively. He feels comfortable with what they're trying to do with regards to the X's and O's. But more importantly, he feels like he has the confidence of his teammates in that huddle. When they look at him in the eyes, they think that he's the guy that can get the job done. And Ken Miller said that, you know, this is the guy, the reason he got the start more than anything is his experience. He's got a little bit more experience than Stephen Giles, who is the backup.
Well, it was a revolving door last year, and I think Ken Miller has made it clear that Darian Durant's not going to have to worry about looking over his shoulder. And it's been a nice bounce back after that interception by Ryan Phillips. You can see it's 3rd and short with 8 seconds remaining in this first quarter.
There has been some turnovers, but that interception, the only one you can put on Darian Durant.
Last time there was a 3rd and short, there was premature movement by the Roughriders. Not this time, and there's the Durant surge behind Jeremy O'Day. And they'll unpile and should be enough for a first down.
Boy, Aaron Hunt got a good jump there and hit Durant right at the line of scrimmage. We'll see where they spot the ball. They're gonna have to bring him in, because I thought it was close. Aaron Hunt really guessed right, because he went to the right gap, and when I say guessed right, guessed the snap count, because he was out of his stance in a hurry and made this one close.
Final play of the first quarter. Is it a turnover or is it a first down? And it looks like it's short, and it is a turnover on downs. Mike Benavides pumped up.
And that was the guy who got it done. It was Aaron Hunt, who in the preseason, in half a quarter, had 2 sacks.
And I think the Saskatchewan Roughriders are going to challenge the spot, but we rarely see that overturned on that type of play. And Mike Benavides is in.
He's a little pumped up. Yeah, a little pumped up over there. Well, they'll challenge this. Ken Miller will challenge this spot. You can make a challenge on 3rd down. And remember, There's a new system in place with regards to challenges for the coaches. There's a command center in Toronto where Jake Ireland is, along with Tom Higgins, the head of officiating.
You're right. That's a great surge by Aaron Hunt, the 3-time all-CFL defensive tackle.
Just goes to show, too, that there are no throwaway plays. I mean, it would be easy to just say with just inches to go, okay, they get the first down and we'll line up again. But the Lions and Aaron Hunt don't treat it that way. They play hard every single one. That's good anticipation by Hunt to make it close. And I don't know how you can sort of sift through there, and these are very tough challenges to overturn.
I think the only time we've ever seen one of these overturned was in the Grey Cup game when it was on a bit of a roll and it wasn't in the middle of a pile. So Andre Proulx on the headset and Jake Ireland, Tom Higgins at the command center.
You have to have a perfect view at it, basically, and then perspective of where the ball is and where the yard marker is, and awful difficult on those third downs, but we'll see.
After reviewing the play, there's no conclusive evidence to overturn the call on the field. Therefore, the ball is turned on downs. It will be BC first down.
So the Roughriders with a fumble, an interception, and a turnover on downs in the opening quarter. And yet they lead by 4. First quarter stats are brought to you by Tim Hortons. Always fresh, always.
Well, you can see Saskatchewan has the edge offensively, but they also have thrown an interception for a touchdown to Ryan Phillips. So pretty even in that first quarter, with both defenses playing quite well. I'm a little surprised that Buck Pierce hasn't got the offense going.
No question. Darian Durant and Buck Pierce, I mentioned, have similar storylines. They've been declared the starters, and they're both teams hoping to lean on them. It's been advantage Durant so far.
Yeah, and you got to think that Buck Pierce probably looks towards Geroy Simon a little bit more in this second quarter.
So it's a 4-point Rough Rider lead, but the Lions have the football. First down at the Saskatchewan 49-yard line. Ian Smart back in the game, and the fake to Smart. And they're tiptoeing down the sidelines is the always dangerous Geroy Simon.
Yeah, and whenever Buck Pierce or really any quarterback over, the last 9 years for the BC Lions gets off to a slow start or starts to struggle, he'll start to look for number 81. We should see less double teams this year simply because of the presence of Paris Jackson as an inside receiver.
Second to Kenyon Rambo last year in receiving yards, did miss a pair of games. There's the other slot. Paris Jackson, 1st and 10. Here comes pressure off the edge. Pierce tucked away. Another man miss and gets to the 35-yard line. So 4 tough yards with Eddie Davis making the tackle. Well, we talked to Geroy Simon yesterday about having a new man on the other side, Paris Jackson at the slot.
I think with Paris being on the other side, they're going to have to balance it out a little more, because if they want to double me or put more guys to our side, he's going to have a really big year. I mean, we expect him to have a big year anyway, but I think it's going to give us more balance, and that's the same with some of.
2nd and 7, and that front has been charged up for Saskatchewan tonight. Then they get to Buck Pierce.
Well, that's right. If Buck Pierce is going to take advantage of the speed of Paris Jackson or the abilities of Geroy Simon, he's going to need a little more time to throw the football. That time, Marcus Adams got a good push in the middle along with Scott Schultz. Remember, there's some changes on the offensive line. Some changes on the offensive line for the BC Lions with Dean Valley and Walter Stith on that left side. You can see the stunt, number 51, Marcus Adams, coming around and getting that first contact.
So the Lions have fumbled on their first possession, 2 punts, and now a long-range field goal by Paul McCallum, who missed his first 3 of the preseason. McCallum puts it up, and it's off the upright. Dead ball. points. Saskatchewan lead. Well, Paul McCallum, I mentioned, missed 3 over 40 yards in the preseason. Wally Bono suggested yesterday he made him try a 49-yarder early in that game just because it was preseason. Kind of surprised he tried that long-range attempt.
Got a little wind at his back, and maybe that's why, but you're right. That's exactly what he said yesterday.
No return because of the ball in the upright, and at the 25, Weston Dressler gets behind Dante Marsh.
Nice touch on the throw from Darian Durant to just lead that one out there for Weston Dressler to run underneath it. The Saskatchewan Roughriders will confuse the Lions defense here by playing tight ends. One here and Chris Zarka and Aaron Wagner on the outside. That's a run formation for Saskatchewan. They faked the run, and Darian Durant now has plenty of time to step back in there, nice and relaxed, and look at him drop that one right into Weston Dressler.
39 yards to Dressler, who had 1,128 a year ago. Pressure, Durant throws it away to avoid the sack as Javi Glatt was bearing down.
That's a sign of a quarterback who's starting to climb to that next level. Darian Durant feels the pressure from Javi Glatt there. Nice defensive stunt coming from the linebacking core. Rather than take a sack or throw the football down the field and risk an interception, he throws it to an open area, and they line up second down.
Nice bounce back for Durant. 2nd and 10. Pressure again. And he is able to shake it off. And then throw high over Jones, but a nice job by Durant to avoid the sack.
He's got a strong upper body without question. He's never been really talked about as having a cannon of an arm, but he certainly has the arm strength to make all the throws necessary. But you can see the strength in his legs and his upper body to be able to fight off that sack and just buy a little more time.
That's the newcomer, Gary Butler. Ian Smart dropped back, and a Borum kick fielded by Smart on the run. And up close to the 25-yard line on the return. Approaching the 4-minute mark of the second quarter. And the BC Lions will scrimmage from their own 23-yard line. Buck Pierce, which is 31 yards passing so far. And he hands it off right side. Ian Smart plows to the 27.
Wally Buono has 227 wins in his 19-year career, this being his 20th season. With 5 more, he will pass Don Matthews, become the winningest coach in CFL history. I mentioned it in the pregame, and it's worth repeating in my mind, because I think you can take the word arguably away from that sentence that says he's the best coach of all time.
And what he's done, I'm not sure anybody's going to be able to catch him. 2nd down, 7 to go, and Pierce looks for right. There's Bennett picked off. Donovan, Omar Morgan down the sidelines. Touchdown, or where will they mark it? It is a Saskatchewan Roughrider touchdown. So both quarterbacks have thrown interceptions for Majors in this first half.
And Omar Morgan is back home, basically in his comfort zone on that corner, wearing the green and white. Spent 1 season with the Edmonton Eskimos. Unfortunately for Morgan, it was the year Saskatchewan won the Grey Cup. I'm not sure if he made it to the end zone.
They are going to mark him out. They do mark him out at about the 2.5-yard line.
Buck Pierce locks into that throw to the short sideline to Ryan Grice Mullen, and Morgan says, thank you very much.
Didn't have an interception all last year, but the veteran corner in his 10th year, 9th with the Roughriders, has an enormous one here. Well, there were a lot of questions about what Gary Echeverry's defense was going to look like, what shoes to fill, but so far it's been impressive.
Well, they've shown some different formations. Gary Echeverry, talking to the players yesterday, his philosophy is He wants to get pressure on the quarterback, make him uncomfortable. Now, that you could say, of course, every coach wants that, but he's talking about full-out pressure. He's going to send DBs. He's going to send a lot of people at Buck Pierce here tonight and the rest of the league when they play the Riders. And these defensive backs have some shots at some of those errant footballs.
Lions called a timeout to make sure they get organized on defense for this goal line stand. Zarka first to move, and now it's Charles, touchdown. Whoa. A backflip from Hugh Charles, and they're flipping out here at Mosaic.
I love the hesitation by Hugh Charles to just be a little bit patient. A lot of running backs, especially young ones, and remember, Charles is just in his second year in the Canadian Football League and in his first start. To the left of your screen, watch a little hesitation as he just takes a little sidestep, allows his blocking to set up, and he gets in the end zone. Most young running backs will just try and slam it into the back of their offensive line. Charles didn't do that. He gets in pay dirt.
Boy, Hugh Charles has had an impressive first half. 45-yard catch, and now a Canadian Football League football is a souvenir of his first touchdown.
A lot of Rider fans were concerned at the running back position.
58.
Call of a delay of game against the Roughriders. As Belton Johnson went down. Not sure if they had the right alignment out, or not sure how you give a delay of game for an injured player.
Well, unless it was they didn't have the right amount of people or the right alignment, and he just sort of went down to save the timeout, trying to stall so that they can get the right personnel for the extra point on the field. And that's why the officials recognized it and called the penalty. But I mentioned the concern that Saskatchewan fans had with the running back position because Wes Cates not scheduled to return to the lineup until about week 3, according to Ken Miller. But boy, Hugh Charles, this is an opportunity for him. He's got 3 starts to show everybody what he can do with the football, and it looks like he's pretty good at it.
Yeah, 25 yards on the ground, and again, that 45-yard catch and run. Ivan Goodfriend, the veteran athletic therapist, escorting Belton Johnson to the sidelines.
And I think he'll be okay.
Kanji for the extra point. Miles, who blocked the convert last year, was bearing down, but it's through the uprights as the Roughriders extend their lead. And a pretty good celebration by Hugh Charles on the touchdown.
Offside, BC number 27. Penalties will be balanced on the kickoff.
So LeVar Glover was offside on that convert. 2 touchdowns for the Roughriders and an 18-7 lead. The CFL on TSN continues next Thursday as the Edmonton Eskimos travel to Montreal to take on the Alouettes, a pair of winners in Week 1. Live coverage begins at 7 Eastern and 4 Pacific.
Both teams 1-0. Congratulations to Richie Hall.
His first Canadian Football League win as the head man. Jamie Bourne with the line drive boot. And Mallett will field it and head north. And is stopped just beyond the 30-yard line.
2 things get Buck Pierce in trouble with this interception. One is his timing is off. The other is he locks in with his eyes. You can see his head come to this side of the field right away. And then with the timing off on that out by Ryan Grice-Mullen, Omar Morgan, the veteran of 10 years, he'll take that one every time. And that leads to this Hugh Charles touchdown. Shows the patience of a veteran. And a flip like the gizmo.
Yeah. Well, Ray Morrison mentioning that Buck Pierce had never thrown an interception here at Mosaic. That has changed. And now out of the backfield, and Rolly Lambala can't hang on. Sean Lucas, the Sam linebacker, was with them step for step.
And I think part of the reason that Buck Pierce has struggled so far early in this game is that he's been a little off balance with that pass rush. Saskatchewan defense has provided some pressure from the secondary, sometimes just by formation, confusing the offensive line, who have some changes up front. And right now, Buck Pierce a little shaky in there.
Second and 10. Off the edge, pressure, and Buck Pierce drops the ball and is able to get back on it, but Stevie Baggs off the edge had a terrific preseason, and he's given Pierce headaches in this first half.
Again, it starts by formation. Baggs is the third guy to the right, but look, there's two others inside. 1, 2 right here for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, really overloading the right side of the formation. You're going to see Stevie Baggs in a second, unless you have high def, and you saw him the whole way. Buck Pierce has duck
as he went around Walter Stiff, replacing, look out, Paul McCallum drops it, and the Roughriders have it, and the Roughriders have a touchdown. Stu Ford. As the Lions come unglued here in the second quarter.
It looked like the snap was a little bit high, but Paul McCallum did get his hands on it.
Just let it roll right out of his hands, and Kai Stewart was bearing down on him, and Stu Ford says, thank you very much. Well, I mentioned turnovers were the difference last November between these two teams. They're becoming a difference maker tonight in another way. 21 points off turnovers. And the Roughriders lead 25-7.
Paul McCallum's start to the 2009 season has been a rough one when you consider the preseason. McCallum back in that punt formation, he should have had that one. I said it was a little bit high, but that was about head height or just above it, and he should have caught that one, pulled it down, slipped out of his hands. It looked like he tried to kick it on the ground, which he's done before throughout his career, but you can see it just slides out of his hands. Tack Pornegay had a chance, then he gets nailed, and Stu Ford takes advantage. And all the momentum now with the Saskatchewan Roughriders, and this one slipping away from the BC Lions in a hurry. The punter's not protected after he puts the ball on the ground and starts kicking it around. That's why you're allowed to hit Paul McCallum if you're the Saskatchewan Roughriders, and boy, did they ever. He took a big hit. Couldn't get back to it, and Stu Ford did.
Fourth touchdown of Stu Ford's career. 3 have come against Wally Buono's BC Lions. And that's been a hot potato, that football, in this first half. There's been a lot of balls in the carpet. And you think they like it here in Regina? Deafening at Mosaic, and another kickoff that splits Smart and Mallet. Ian Smart with the flag down, runs into Aaron Wagner and Stevie Baggs. I was wondering, Glenn, in another year, whether Jarius Jackson would already be warming up and whether Wally Buono wants Buck Pierce to work his way through, because he has been declared the #1.
You know, that's a good point, Chris, but I'm not sure.
Illegal block in the back. BC number 91. Half the distance to the goal. First down, BC.
Well, I tell you, it just keeps piling on for the Lions. You're right, because last year they really platooned the two quarterbacks, Jarius Jackson over 2,000 passing, and Buck Pierce. But I think Wally Buono's experienced enough to look at this and to say, ask himself, why is Buck Pierce struggling? Is it because he just isn't picking up the reads he should be? Or is it because it's something out of his control? And I think right now, more than anything, it's a little out of his control because he's not getting the protection necessary to make the throws down the field. I mean, that Rider defense is confusing the offensive line right now. They're going to have to get some help, maybe bring in some running back help to give Buck Pierce a little more time.
We have seen fullback Rolly Lambala in there, but that was one of the prevailing question marks about the Lions. What kind of protection do they get off the left side with the departures of Rob Murphy and Kelly Bates? Not McKay Loescher is still down, and he was actually called for the penalty. And it goes from bad to worse for the Lions. This will be their worst field position start of the game. With the penalty, it is marked back to the 8-yard line.
And not McKay Loescher is one of the guys on defense. They want to rotate through the defensive line to get Ricky Foley some help, so we'll see if he can return. In the meantime, the Lions just need to settle things down here offensively and try and get a drive that they can at least get that field position and swap the field, because it is starting to snowball in a hurry. And when it does here in Mosaic Stadium for the Riders, it can get ugly fast for the visiting team.
And it also gets loud. Mallet right side with a burst. Brought down by Tad Cordigate. Up at the 15-yard line, 7 for the rookie running back.
First down success is a way to get out of trouble if you're struggling as a quarterback, because now you're looking at a lot more plays in the playbook. So Buck Pierce now with 3, maybe just reaching to 4 yards to go here, has a chance. He doesn't have to drop back 5, 6, 7 yards in the pocket, or he can be a target for that defense.
Second and 3 midway through this second quarter. Bunch to the short side. And over the middle, jarred away from Ryan Grace-Mullen as Tad Cordigate breaks it up.
And that throw, Chris, it looked like he really rushed. I mean, now internally, a quarterback has that clock going through his head, that timer that says you got to get the ball out of your hands. And right now, that one was rushed by Buck Pierce, thrown behind Grace-Mullen. Really had no chance at it, and the Lions are going to have to kick it away again, or at least try to this time.
Again, and there's it to him, but a booming punt. Cordigate almost a block, but here's Eric Morris with a return across midfield, and then upended there. Anton McKenzie with the tackle on his old teammate. In fact, the man who has replaced him in that Saskatchewan defense. Let's join Ray Morrison.
Well, let's talk a little bit about what Jason Claremont brings to this team from a leadership standpoint. Ken Miller has talked about bringing Darian Durant along, how Darian Durant needs to be more demonstrative. Well, last night, the Rider receivers, quarterbacks, running backs, they had to go through about 120, 130 plays, DVDs, charts, the whole 9 yards. Jason Claremont said, this meeting will be at my place, and really took charge and command of what needed to happen among the players in that initiated meeting.
Here's Hugh Charles down to the 46-yard line. Well,
he doesn't have a catch, Chris, no, Jason Claremont yet, but I agree with Ray 100% when you talk about Claremont, who will be eased into the offense. He's not going to play every snap early on, but I couldn't agree more with that leadership intangible that Claremont brings to this football team. He brings the toughness, but he's been on a championship team as well in BC. He knows what that takes. His resume is second to none.
20 years ago, those defensive meetings were at your house, weren't they?
Yes, they were.
There's Dressler, and he bounces off contact and has another first down. Roughriders winning most of the battles right now.
Well, Dressler picks up this one here, and You know, we talked in our meeting with Ken Miller yesterday. The head coach said, boy, they really, due to all the injuries they suffered, had to really put a saddle, as he said it, on Dressler and ride him throughout the regular season along with Wes Cates. And boy, did he come through for him.
He gave up 50 pounds on that collision with Turnanandi, but won the battle. And now Charles goes to the weak side, and he gets jolted back with markers being thrown on the play.
Anton McKenzie, first contact on Hugh Charles there.
Roughriders walking backwards.
Illegal block in the back. Saskatchewan number 3, 10-yard penalty. Still first down.
Newcomer Chris Jones, the wideout, the guilty party.
Yeah, a little grab on the outside, but Chris Jones, I had a conversation with him before the game. Played arena last year and said his first out route in training camp, there's a little grab on Dante Marsh. Said his first out route, he started chopping his feet and then looked up and had another 20 yards to go.
First and 20 over the middle, and it's a catch for Bagg. And he's brought down by Darren Toney.
He had some Chris Jones there, expecting him to play that wide receiver position a little bit in different formations. And spent some time in the NFL in different training camps. He said his 1 year in Arena League, it's nice to get back and play on a real football field, but he laughed at how wide it is. And he said, you know, when I figure out the angles, the receiver can really take advantage of this big field, 65 yards wide.
Last year, 16 different receivers in the Saskatchewan arsenal. There's the second quarterback draw of the game. And Durant down to the 30-yard line. Late flag thrown after Durant hit the carpet. Looked like he was about 2 yards short of the first down, Glenn.
Yeah, Chris, you know that quarterback draw he ran for the touchdown in the first quarter, how he finished that run off when he lowered his shoulders. And this run here is an indication as to why his teammates respect him so much. And they think they can win with Darian Durant. Looks like he's going to have to get some, might have been a little ding there. He's pointing towards his head.
Yep. Stephen Giles coming over.
Saskatchewan number 7, 10-yard penalty. Still second down.
Well, Dressler at the end of the play with the hold that negates the gain. And it now will be 2nd and 25.
Darian Durant hasn't read the memo that quarterbacks are allowed to hook slide. He didn't get that memo apparently because he hasn't done it.
Well, Chris Schultz told you in the pregame that he liked a lot of things about Darian Durant. They've been showcased here in the first half. Draw play, ball loose, and a fumble that the Lions battle for and get. And now another flag comes down. BC on the football. And the only thing negative for Hugh Charles in this first half has been a couple of fumbles. Ricky Foley battling down there, and he is on the ball.
And Rob Bagg looks a little bit shaken up there. And the way the flag and where the flag was thrown, I was wondering if someone impeded someone else to that fumble.
Jeremy Gibbs forced the fumble.
Illegal pass. The ball was batted forward by BC. Then the ball was recovered by BC. It will be BC's ball from where the ball was batted. BC first down.
So the ball was advanced, and they'll bring it back to the original point of contact. And it's Corey Banks here batting it ahead.
Well, Durant was going for the football, and Banks bats it forward. But the Lions get the ball, get the recovery.
So it's been a turnover-filled first half. And a handoff to the left side. And Mallet down to the 44.
Hugh Charles puts this one on the ground. A little draw. This was just the Saskatchewan Roughriders trying to just get a few yards back and punt the football because they had such a long way to go, and that hit caused the problems. And you're right, Ricky Foley recovers.
Keep playing.
And Aaron on the bench saying, keep playing. The Lions can capitalize here. They can get back in it before the half.
Oh, this is big.
Second and long. And wide open, Ryan Grace Bill on the first down at the Saskatchewan 34-yard line.
That's a throw that Buck Pierce really needed for his confidence. Step in there and throw a completion. Ryan Gricemelon finished the season with the BC Lions last year. And his last game versus Calgary played very well. Had 5 catches in that one for 113 yards. And that's when kind of got the attention of the Lions coaching staff.
Gain of 11, and now Andre Proulx is giving the benches the 3-minute warning. Lions football, but they trail by 18. 3 minutes till Rona at the half. We saw the guys in Calgary, and today an impressive performance on Off the Record. And we'll check in with Schultze, Jock, Matt, and Dave on their take on this first half. It's been wild. Roughriders have turned it over 4 times and a half, and they lead by 18. How often does that happen? Impressive toss there by Buck Pierce. That might have been his best-looking pass of the night, complete to Paris Jackson.
Yeah, I think the BC Lions have shortened up their routes a little bit. They're running more intermediate stuff. There's Paris Jackson right there. And the slot back position, that new position for him, he's just going to run an in route. But you can see it's only about 8 to 10 yards down the field, and they're trying to get the ball out of Buck Pierce's hands quicker.
11 for Jackson, a first down. Ball at the Roughrider 23-yard line. 2 backs. Roller comes pressure off the edge. Cornegay missed. Wide open is Arsenault. And Arsenault's in for the touchdown. Emmanuel Arsenault, the new wide out for the Lions, has his first CFL major.
He takes a hard hit as he goes across, but this play is made by Buck Pierce to avoid the blitzing Tad Cornegay. And I don't know how he saw him. I mean, he drops back and he's just behind the goalpost, Buck Pierce. Watch how he drops back. He's got his eyes down the field. And just out of the corner of his eye, sees 24 for Saskatchewan, is able to sidestep him. And a wide open Emmanuel Arsenault. He took a shot as he crossed the goal line right in his ribs.
Bill Rochelle checking out Arsenault as McCallum adds the extra point. And so the Lions capitalize on the turnover. They have 14 points off turnovers. Roughriders have 21 off turnovers.
But that was a drive that the BC Lions dearly needed here because it was all Saskatchewan. The momentum on the teams with the fumbled snap from Paul McCallum, the interception by Buck Pierce that set up a touchdown for Saskatchewan. It was all Riders, and it looked like Buck Pierce was going to take a big hit there and possibly cough it up again, and didn't, because he just in time saw this man, Tad Cornegay, come right off the edge, and he is clean. Nice disguise there by Tad Cornegay to not give it away early. But Buck Pierce was able to slip that blitz.
Again, Gary Echeverry kept things pretty simple the preseason. Didn't see much of this expanded defensive package. And they have been high pressure, but that time Buck Pierce was able to avoid that blitz and make the play.
Gary Echeverry not happy that Tad Cornegay didn't break down and keep containment.
High short kickoff. Fielded by Morris across the 30, 40, and brought down by Jerome Dennis. So 2:12 remaining in this first half. Durant back in offensively, and the Lions are thinking a stop, and maybe they can make it even tighter before the half is done.
It's pretty good completion percentage there for Darian Durant. 12 of 16, around 75%. I think anytime you're pushing 60% as a quarterback, you got to be happy with it. So to get up in the high 70s, mid 70s, pretty good. One throw he'd want back, that one to Ryan Phillips. And Ken Miller told us yesterday in our meeting that he you know, you mentioned that he platooned quarterbacks. It was a real in and out situation for quarterbacks all season with Bishop, Crandall. He changed Giles and Durant a bunch. It was real carousel for the quarterbacks, as you mentioned, Chris. But when we asked him about what he's going to do this year, he said, you know, last year was really not characteristic of how he likes to handle the quarterbacks. And by the way, all those 4 starts for Darian Durant wins. So he gives him the start. He said he's going to look at Darian Durant this when he makes mistakes and see in his eyes, has he lost control of the offense? Are they empty eyes when he comes off? So when he threw the interception to Ryan Phillips, clearly Ken Miller looked at him and said, no, you're playing fine. You still have good confidence. Get back out there, and he's recovered. He's bounced back.
1st and 10. Going through his reads. Nobody home, and now a pass to Dressler skips short. Darian Durant might have been the starter for the rest of last year had he not been injured against the Argos in his 4th start that was quickly halted by a rib injury and took him a long time to get back into the starter's role.
Yeah, I thought he was really playing well before he was injured. And in the pregame show, Chris Schultz explained exactly that he was a very different quarterback after that big hit against Toronto that he took.
So 2nd and 10. 6 receivers out. Pressure on, and he throws it away. And it's incomplete. It was close enough to Chris Jones, who almost made the catch. And Durant does well to avoid the sack. Aaron Hunt, Ricky Foley, Anton McKenzie.
You know, Lions fans were so concerned about the loss of Cameron Wake, his 23 sacks from a year ago, and where the pressure would come from. And you know, I think there's a lot of teams in the league would like to just have one dominant pass rusher. The Lions still have 2, Aaron Hunt and Brent Johnson. They're no slouches.
Short punt. And there'll be a no yards penalty as Smart picks it up with Roughriders in that restraining area. So 1:49 for Wally Buono's Lions to cut into this 11-point lead.
And they've got to start to eliminate some mistakes. This is a forced fumble by Eddie Davis, so really not a mistake by the offense, but that one was. That's the one that Buck Pierce wants back. That set up a Hugh Charles touchdown, and of course the fumble by Paul McCallum ended up in the end zone. So the Lions, I'm sure Wally Buono at halftime will be talking about cleaning up some of the errors in the first half.
Lions start at their 44. Pierce will take off. And Eddie Davis guides him out at the line bench.
And having said that, and you could almost say, Chris, the first half dominated by Saskatchewan with all those Lions miscues. With a drive here, there's lots of time at 1:41. The Lions are right back in this football game.
Lions have used their timeout.
Even in your 20th season, being a head coach in the CFL can cause you to bite your nails a little bit.
2nd and 6. Here comes the pressure off the edge. He gets it away. Arsenault pulls it down, but he'll be short of the first down as Omar Morgan closed quickly.
Well, and Tad Cornegay, again, the blitzer on the play for Saskatchewan, almost gets caught because he tried to disguise it too long. He lined up in the middle of the defense. He's right here, and then he tries to go all the way around the edge and then come off the corner. And by the time he got there, he allowed Buck Pierce just enough to get it out, but the coverage was strong enough behind that blitz that he had to dump it underneath and won't get first down yardage.
Arsenault still feeling the effects of the hit after the touchdown. And it's 3rd and 3, so the Lions have to kick. step by McCallum, and then he lets it go, and Morris draws the flag, and he gets hauled down.
Paul McCallum thought about running it there, and he at times in his career and at times with the Lions has had the green light if he sees the opposition peel out for a return to take off and run with the football. He thought about it there, but after that fumble earlier, it was probably a wise decision just to kick it away.
BC number 25, 5-yard penalty, first down.
Jerome Dennis called for no yards.
Sometimes that opposition on a punt return team will peel out of there quick, and McCallum here, I mean, he thought about it. He took a look. He's taking a peek. But Donovan Alexander there just changed his mind, and he let it go.
Draw!
Roughriders start at their own 23 with 83 seconds on the clock in this first half. And over the middle for Charles, incomplete.
Timing wasn't there. That's one that Darian Durant, you could tell he knows that he hung on to that football a little too long. Hugh Charles came out of the backfield and went straight down the seam, and there was a window just behind the linebackers and in front of the secondary, but it was right now, and that extra second allowed Baron Miles to get involved in the play.
And in his self-critique of the preseason, he said that's the thing he wanted to work on more, the quicker reads. Now looking at 2nd and 10. Rolling left, and now throwing. Fantuz wide open at the Lion 50-yard line. Baron Miles takes him out inside the 50. Lots of time for Saskatchewan to enhance their lead.
Andy Fantuz is going to start from motion almost in the backfield. Look at the crisscrossing of receivers, and that causes problems because 2 Lions stay short. Ryan Phillips has to get deep in the outside third of the field there and doesn't. He gets caught peeking at the quarterback. Fantuz gets behind him.
Fourth-year man out of Western knows how to get open. 1st and 10. Look out at the win. Shakes that tackle. Still rolling. Gets it away complete. And there's Claremont's first official catch as a Rough Rider. And the fans start to rise to their feet.
How did Darian Durant get outside of Javi Glad there? And there's, how about that reception for Jason Claremont?
Well, the home cooking for number 82. The gain was 9, so 2nd and 1. Stop the clock again by stepping out. Minute 2 remaining. And it'll be a first down, but late flag as Charles plunged ahead.
Jason Claremont has been asked all week long how he feels about playing against his old team, and is there a revenge factor? Is there different emotions? He said, no, not at all. He said he's had a lot of trouble.
Saskatchewan, number 54. 10-yard penalty, 2nd down.
Jeremy O'Day,
the center.
Call, but he said he's had trouble answering the question because that's not Jason Claremont. Jason Claremont is a focused athlete. On his mind all week has been his routes, the offense, reading the zones, and what the BC defensive secondary will do, and that is it.
So it's 2nd and 11 now. Here comes the heat. Durant trying to scamper away from McKenzie for Claremont, nearly intercepted Darren Toney in his hip pocket. And that holding penalty, a costly one.
Darren Toney made the team because of his ability to cover man-to-man, and Jason Claremont wants that one back because he wants to come back and fight a little harder. He tried to float in behind. You see he's open. That's why he thought he had a step on Toney, which he did, but the ball thrown short and low, so Toney had the better angle at it. That's what he's saying to Durant there. Put a little air on that, and I'll go get it for you.
Pressure, they block the punt. And it'll be picked up and dropped by Lyle Green, and Borum gets it back. Well, the hot potato game continues, and Jamie Borum just saved points.
He sure did.
Alex Fuenge had the block punt, but Borum somehow gets it back.
You know, every time there's a fumble or a block kick like this, and the player that's going after the ball, in this case, it's Lyle Green, has to make a quick decision. Do you try and scoop it and go for the touchdown, or you just make sure you get possession? He tried to scoop that one and go for the touchdown, lost his balance because of it, and it comes out on its own. Jamie Borum right there to scoop it up with 3 Lions surrounding him.
Yeah, you don't see the 9-year veteran make many mistakes like that. Good hustle by Borum. The 9th turnover of the half. And now we're going to get a challenge from the Lion bench. Mike Benavides was in the ear of Wally Buono, and I'm not sure.
Well, here's what they may be wondering. Was Lyle Green contacted when he went down initially with the ball, which would make him down by contact? But I don't think he was. I think he goes down on his own.
Ball's loose right there.
Okay, now, you can fumble the ball. Like you've heard that before. The ground can't make you fumble. Actually, the ground can make you fumble. Lyle Green goes down here on his own without being touched.
The BC ball carrier was down by contact. We'll review the play.
They're going to review it, but that play is going to stand because the ground can make you fumble. If you're by yourself and you have possession of the football, which Lyle Green did, and you are not touched, trip and fall down and go down, and the ball comes out, it is a fumble because you are not down by any contact at that point. So Green has not been touched. The ball is loose and free.
Not even close.
And there's no one around. Now, the ground can cause an incompletion because the receiver has to maintain possession when he hits the ground. But a ground can cause a fumble, and I think this play will stand as called.
Lyle Green, who had a touchdown in last year's West Semi, and has been moved to receiver this year because of his good hands, and that was just a strange play after a big punt block.
The thing is, Chris, I mean, he's going to be kicking himself when he sees the game tape on that because he had the team is in scoring position if he just falls on it.
BC's ball carrier went down by himself. No contact by Saskatchewan player. He fumbled the ball, recovered by Saskatchewan. The ruling on the field stands. First down, Saskatchewan.
And really a wasted challenge because that wasn't close.
Well, that's week 1 in Canadian football. In any football, for that matter. It's
been sloppy, but it certainly hasn't been short of excitement.
Well, and defensive. You know, some big hits that caused some of those turnovers.
Less than 40 seconds left, and the Roughriders will kill the clock.
Well, I think they may have saw the graphic. You know, they
don't try anything else.
Yeah, there's been 9 turnovers. There's about 30 seconds left. Let's just go in at halftime, get some stick 'em on our fingers, and come back out. That, you know, Lyle Green's going to kick himself because he had a chance to give his offense the football with about 40 seconds to go. Time to put some more points on the board and drop it.
Not going to want to watch special teams film of that. Well, we mentioned the turnovers. 35 of the 39 points have come off turnovers. 21 by Saskatchewan, 14 by the Lions. And they'll snap the football one more time and head to the locker rooms. First half in the books, and it was a good one for Saskatchewan. They hold an 11-point lead at the half at Mosaic.
What a wild one in Regina tonight. I mean, we didn't know what was going to happen next. All kinds of turnovers, momentum shifts, but it's the Saskatchewan Roughriders with a 25-14 lead over the BC Lions. Dave, Jock, Matt, and Chris. And when Are the Saskatchewan Roughriders going to stop surprising us? When? I mean, time and time again, this team, they suffer injuries, they throw another guy out there. They turn the ball over, they overcome adversity, they just keep rolling. This season, they were supposed to struggle in the West, and they went into this season with a guy at quarterback who was unproven, question marks. Schulte, he fumbles it on the opening drive of the season, and everything's fine.
Yeah, Dave, but you know that's all part of the growth process for any football player, specifically a quarterback. I mean, all things considered, this has been a very, very good first half for Darian Durant. Not because he's thrown for 300 yards and 5 touchdown passes, but because he's had to go through this adversity, the fumbles, the negative plays. This one in particular, the interception that is returned, not for yards, but for touchdown. Now, what happens? He continues to play and makes good passes. That's a tough route to complete. Nice little crosser. This one's impressive because the big question with Darian was the long ball and its effectiveness. That is effective. The adversity he went through made him stronger, didn't make him weaker. Remember, at certain times last year, he would have been put on the bench. Somebody else would have played. Great first half. Nice surprise, but he hasn't been the only surprise.
That's right, Schulte. Yeah, a young man by the name of Hugh Charles.
Yes.
Off that play-action pass when Darian was able to push the ball down the field, that was all able to happen because of Hugh Charles and establishing a running game early. Hugh Charles is a nice find. He's a 2-year player from Colorado, and I can tell you this kid is electrifying. It reminds me a lot of Corey Holmes, another small back, 5'8", 185 pounds, got great explosion in those legs. Watch this. Watch how many defenders he makes. Miss right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And he's just breaking arm tackles, and he bursts right here. If Tony didn't have the angle there, he's in the end zone. And he shows he's got a nose for the end zone. I like this. Hey, this is typical Saskatchewan, Jock. No Wes Cates, no problem. We'll find Hugh Charles and put him in there, and he'll produce for us. This kid is showing me a lot, and he's certainly given his young quarterback an opportunity to do a play action, throw the ball down the field.
Well, defensive coordinators spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to stop opposing running backs. They also spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to get to the quarterback. And I think that was BC Lions' biggest concern. I think they found ways. In fact, both sides are finding ways to get the quarterback when they don't have guys who necessarily can beat you with one-on-one pass rush. And we're going to show you let's look at an example here of how the Lions did it. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, and the fourth man is Corey Banks, who's coming off the edge. And he can do what the defensive end can't do, and that's surprise the 3 defenders. Running back steps inside, and Durant doesn't see him coming. He was outnumbered on that side, should have got rid of the football, doesn't. Now here we see a similar thing. Eddie Davis this time, the halfback. He's going to come here. He's got bags with him as well. Now there's just a 2-man coming to the left, and BC Lions, they don't pick it up. Angus Reid, the center, can't get out to Davis in time, and he causes a fumble. So we see both teams now going with what I call that defensive halfback blitz in order to get to the quarterback. You don't have Cameron Wake. You don't have a dominant pass rusher. You've got to find ways to get to the quarterback, and they did.
Sloppy half in a lot of ways for the BC Lions. Are you surprised? How can they tighten things up, Chuck?
You know, I think they're disappointed with the way they played, but when you turn the ball, get the ball 4 times, 2 fumbles and interceptions, and don't score more points, you're worried about putting points on the board at this point.
And Paul McCallum just dropping that snap that ended up in their own end zone.
Not
Not
sure
sure what
often.
happens. Yeah, I'm sure Wally Buono will address all those things, probably doing it right now because his team is trailing in front of that massive electric crowd that we always see in Regina, 25-14 on Friday night. Okay, welcome back. Here are your halftime numbers after a wild half, brought to you by Tim Hortons Always Fresh. Schultz.
Dave, the most impressive number to me is 214 first-half yards of passing by Darian Durant. Nice job.
That's it? That's all you got?
That's all I got.
Okay.
That was the most impressive thing.
All right.
He wanted to do the stats for that.
Yeah, that was it. All right. Here's Ken Miller with Ray Morrison.
21 points off of turnovers. Your team has been optimistic for most of the first half here.
Yeah, I'm really pleased with how our defense is playing. Our teams are playing great, and we just have to maintain ball security while we're on offense.
Along that line, assess Darian Durant's play for me.
Darian has been pretty good. He dropped the ball one time, but other than that, he's bought some time. He's been loose and made some plays, so I'm pretty happy with him.
Good stuff. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
All right, Chris, he totally agrees with you.
Yes.
So there,
Makes me feel better.
Vindicated. All right. Jennifer Hedger is here with a Sports Center update with more, or I guess the latest on Jesse Lumsden in Edmonton. Hi,
yeah, that's right, Dave. Thanks very much. It's a different team. Same old story for Jesse Lumsden. After 4 injury-plagued years with the Hamilton Ticats, Jesse Lumsden not able to make it through the first quarter of his debut as an Edmonton Eskimo. He suffered a dislocated shoulder last night against the Bombers, and MRI will reveal any further damage, with the 26-year-old out indefinitely. NHL news to pass your way. Rick Nash has signed a new 8-year, $62.4 million deal with the Columbus Blue Jackets. It's a contract extension. Nash was eligible to become an unrestricted free agent next summer, and the Canucks have signed former Red Wing Michael Samuelsson to a 3-year deal worth $2.5 million a season. The 32-year-old had 19 goals, 21 assists last season. When Friday Night Football concludes, we've got the next edition of SportsCenter with myself and Brian Mudryk. Second half action coming up next. It's CFL and TSN.
My wrist look a little empty, right? So this year, I can't be denied. My wrist look a little empty.
Hey, I want to give a shout out to everybody out there in Rider Nation. We came to give y'all what y'all want tonight. We're going to get this W for y'all.
Watching TSN, proud home of the Canadian Football League and the 2009 Grey Cup game. Wild first half, 25-14 Riders. Ray Morrison standing by with Lions head coach Wally Buono.
Wally, they generated 21 points off of turnovers. Can you assess the first half of your team here so far here at Mosaic?
Well, again, I think you're correct. The mistakes have been devastating to us, and I think we're very fortunate to still be in the game.
Yeah, and you gained some momentum late in the second quarter. Can you assess Buck Pierce's play? Some of his struggles early, is that an offensive struggle, or is it Buck?
Again, the protection, we've straightened that out, and that's settled down. So, yeah, at the end of the day, you got to make the catches, you got to stay on the field, and that's something we have to improve on in the second half.
Good stuff. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
So the coach suggesting that maybe there is some momentum behind his team. Many might say that looked like preseason game number 3 in the first half, but it was entertaining.
Yeah, 9 turnovers. It does look like preseason, but you heard him mention protection, that he worked out some protection issues at halftime. We'll see if Buck Pierce gets more time.
Borum kicks it off to start the second half, and Ian Smart across the 30-yard line, and he'll be bumped out at the 35 as we compare the quarterback numbers in the opening 30 minutes.
Buck Pierce with just 78 yards passing, has not had a lot of time, has been blitzed. A lot of blitzes coming from Tad Cornegay of Saskatchewan. 214 yards and a pretty good completion percentage for Darian Durant. He did have the one errant throw intercepted by Ryan Phillips, who went for a touchdown. But other than that, a pretty good half for Darian Durant.
Smart takes the handoff and is tossed back. Pick up a 4. There's Ray Williams, the new middle linebacker, with the departure of Mo Lloyd to the Edmonton Eskimos.
And you can see Ray Williams in the middle. He's replacing, as you mentioned, Mo Lloyd, and they're real high on Williams, who, made his way through the special teams with Maurice Lloyd, a starter on defense, real well-spoken guy. He's going to call all the defenses this year for Saskatchewan.
4 game starts last year. They give Smart 5, 2nd and 5. Pierce has time and has a receiver. And a completion to Greg Hetherington, newcomer in the Lions offense, drafted by the Calgary Stampeders.
Well, and against the Stampeders in the preseason, he really earned some playing time in the regular season with a 6-catch, 44-yard performance in a preseason game. So in preseason, a lot of people always say that doesn't really matter, but it does to a lot of players, and it made a big difference for Greg Hetherington.
You see a big target out of McGill. Pick up a 12 and a first down. Bunch formation to the wide side. Smart straight ahead. And Ian Smart is into Rough Rider territory at the 45-yard line as we check in with Ray Morrison.
Chris, you hit the nail on the head with the BC Lions stacking up the receivers on the right side of the field. Emmanuel Arsenault is not going to be back in this football game. The starting wideout has banged up his shoulders, believed to be just maybe a bone bruise or a hit he took to the bone of his shoulder. So that's going to switch things up for the Lions on offense here.
Well, we saw him uncomfortable after scoring the Lions touchdown in the first half.
There's a hit from Omar Morgan, I believe.
And the 5 receivers, big pressure, and Buck drops the ball, and it gets nailed. John Chick off the edge causes the fumble, and the Rough Riders nearly got another.
John Chick right here, number 97, is going to work his way up the field, and he misses, or it looks like he's going to miss Buck Pierce, but he gets that right hand in there and just pops the ball out. And Ray Williams makes the tackle and will get credit for the sack, but it was John Chick who made the play.
This was a team that had just 28 sacks last year. They've got 5 already. Only 16 from their defensive line a season ago. Pierce steps up, ears it out, Ryan Grace, Mullen, it's intercepted, Omar Morgan's got another. No interceptions all of last year, he's got 2 in the season opener. As the turnovers continue here at Mosaic.
Watch the veteran Omar Morgan, who has the flat here, and that's this area of the field. But because the Lions do not threaten that area with the receiver, he's able to fall off. Geroy Simon, stop it there, guys, turns in here. No threat in the flat, so what does Morgan do? He stays back, and he'll stay soft on that play and just wait for the ball to be thrown, and he's right under there for the interception.
And a 15-yard penalty against Shirko Haji Razuli. Rough play, moves the ball up 15 yards.
Now that's a veteran play by a veteran player in Omar Morgan, because a lot of young players, if that's their responsibility in his own defense, they'll go there anyway. They'll just say, this is my area, so I'm going to take it. But Morgan decides, hey, the Lions didn't put a receiver in my area, so I'll just fall back and help Eddie Davis, and comes up with his second pick of the 09 season.
5 turnovers apiece. 3 for Hugh Charles, so it's 2nd and 7, Saskatchewan. 6 receivers out, ball batted in the air and falls incomplete. And Aaron Hunt got his hand on that. By the way, his brother Reggie, who lives in Regina, cut by the Alouettes, had coffee with Wally Boato today.
Couple of plays now from Aaron Hunt, who steps up and then comes around the outside and gets that knocked down.
And so the brothers might be reunited in BC. Well, there has been an offer.
And I also heard there could be interested in Juwan Armour as well. And the Calgary Stampeder, released by John Huffnagel. So possible linebacker for depth coming the BC Lions way.
There's Smart. And he'll be brought down at the 43-yard line, a 41-yard punt. Mike McCullough downfield on teams for Saskatchewan. Look, one of the young fans at Mosaic Stadium, and the TSN family grew by a couple today. Our congratulations to Jeff and Lori Girardat. Jeff, a stats man with us. Quick stat, celebrating the birth of twins, Connor and Braden. So they've got their own offensive backfield now. Lions go to work on offense at the 43, 1st and 10, pressure on the screen. And Ian Smart's got some real estate ahead of him. And he pulls up lame at the 45-yard line. And Ian Smart in some difficulty now. So
looks
some
like
early injuries to the Lions.
Sorry, Chris, that looks like his groin. He definitely, that's painful for Ian Smart, because he had more yards, and a good call by the Lions offensively to take advantage of the pressure from Saskatchewan with a little swing screen.
Look how much field was ahead, and
it wasn't
happening.
in his hip flexor area or in that lower abdominal area somewhere, but very painful for Ian Smart, who, remember, took a hard hit in the first quarter on a kick return in that same area. And you wonder if maybe it just came back and now he's pulled something.
We have seen right across the league, there's a lot of guys come out of camp and they haven't played any regular season games yet, but there's an awful lot of guys hurting, hamstrings and the like.
Yeah,
you've got a theory on that, don't you?
Well, two-a-day practices, you know, especially in the skilled positions, receivers, defensive backs, running backs, you're doing so much running and the cuts that you need in one-on-one drills, etc. And camp sizes are now shrunk down. It used to be years ago, there would be 110, 120 players in camp. It's not, that doesn't happen anymore.
21 before he had to step out. Martell Mallet in, the rookie for Ian Smart. And a nice block by Mallet. Buck Pierce has to throw that one away because the pressure was also coming from the other side from John Chick.
And John Chick plays that well because he stays wide and doesn't allow Buck Pierce the corner. You're right on the block. It was impressive from Martell Mallet, or else Buck Pierce wouldn't have had that much time. There's Mallet there, and here's John Chick. Two principles in this play. Mallet's going to make his block on the backside, and then John Chick will slow play it enough. There's the block by Mallet to the right, and watch 97. Just slow plays that and doesn't allow Buck Pierce the corner.
John Chick, who was hurt 3 different times last year, thumb, knee, shoulder, but he's been a force tonight. 2nd and 10. And a crosser, Paris Jackson cut down back at the line of scrimmage, maybe even a loss on the play. Lance Fraser celebrates.
Leading Saskatchewan Roughrider in the interception department. Steps up and makes a nice open field tackle, and a lot of riders were rallying to the football there. You see Ray Williams, the linebacker, and it didn't look like Paris Jackson had very much room, even if Fraser misses him.
So 3rd down, McCallum back in. And there's the rookie, Eric Morris. Aiming for the corner, and that ball does bounce before it goes out. Good kick at the 12-yard line. So Saskatchewan football when we come back to Mosaic. For every sack in tonight's game, Purolator donates the quarterback's weight in food to a local food bank. Purolator, where business is going, and you can see the Lions dominated that category a year ago.
23 coming from Cameron Wake, and they're wondering where they're going to get him from. You know, Brent Johnson is in double figures every year.
Tonight, though, 5-1 Saskatchewan in that territory. They start deepest in their own zone all night at the 12, and oh, that was dangerous as the pass intended for Rob Bagg broken up by LeVar Glover.
A lot of Lions fans wondering where the pressure will come from. I mean, you remember Brent Johnson, 65 sacks in his last 5 years. They were the 2008 sack leaders. Wake, of course, ran away with it, but Aaron Hunt, his teammate, at 11, and Johnson at 10 was tied for 3rd. So I still do have 2 dominant pass rushers in Brent Johnson and Aaron Hunt, but they've been quiet tonight. Hunt's made a couple of plays in other ways, but I don't want to talk much about Brent Johnson.
2nd and 10, a little problem with that shotgun, but Durant is going to take off. And Darian Durant will step up with a 1st down. Good alert play by Durant, who checks in with Coach Jamie Barisi.
And he took his eyes off that shotgun snap, but was lucky enough to have the ball float to the proper side. Brent Johnson had made an inside move there and didn't have the corner. So when Darian Durant fumbled that one around a little bit, he had an open corner and took off. Smart play to run it.
There are his numbers last year. His best rushing game was against Hamilton, 5 carries, 75 yards. That was a valuable 14 yards of real estate. And a fresh set of downs. Here's Dressler on that end around again. And nothing doing against the Lions defense. Corey Banks there. So was Glover.
The upside of a defensive back at linebacker is his speed. and Corey Banks uses that speed to track down Weston Dressler. There's Banks right there moving. You can see him slide over. And watch the speed as he tracks him down at a nice angle. Doesn't let him cut back. Doesn't give up any cutback lanes. Makes a great open field tackle.
The man Milt Stiegel said he would build a defense around of all the defensive players in the CFL. Little jump there. Looked like the Lions were offside. Durant just ditches the football, and they're going to draw another penalty as Ricky Foley was the man. I believe it was offside, and also gets the late hit.
Well, it looked like as they went to the ground there, did one of the Lions, Foley, or not, McKay Losher, I thought was also in pursuit. Were they a little extra as they drove him to the ground? And also, was that intentional grounding? Did the ball go across the line of scrimmage or not?
Both signals against the Lions. Foley, the fourth-year man out of York, who has been anxious.
Offside. BC number 91, 5-yard penalty. Major foul. Roughing the passer. BC 91, 15-yard penalty. Will go out 20 yards, first down.
Well, I got Ricky Foley, but it was not McKay Losher who gets the call, and that's a bad combination of calls.
Yeah, he was coming off the corner up from the top of your screen and chases down Darian Durant from the wide side. There's the offside as he jumps. And now watch, what does he do at the end of the play? Because everything's okay there, but it was Ricky Foley. They got the wrong number on the roughing the passer. Foley actually threw Darian Durant into the ground.
Losher back in BC, 2 years in Hamilton. Here's Durant looking for Dressler. And he's got it! Through the hands of Darren Toney, who thought he had a pick. And Weston Dressler comes down with the football. Good to be lucky, lucky to be good.
Darian Durant points to himself. Darren Toney points at himself. He has a chance, times it perfectly, and just doesn't come up with the catch. Dressler does, and Durant was pointing at himself because he wanted to put more air on that ball. Dressler was in behind of Darren Toney, and he underthrew him a little bit.
31-yard play. That's been a slippery pigskin all night. Dressler with 96 yards in the game. Hugh Charles ahead. Foley gets a piece of him. Javi Glatt there, and the tackle made at the 30 after 3.
A good-looking drive here by Saskatchewan they flopped the field and are in field goal range if it should stop now, which is Ken Miller can eat up this third quarter and dominate the time of possession. That's the key.
Drive started at their own 12-yard line. 2nd and 7 from the 30. Quick hitter, and a catch made by Andy Van Toos, and another Rough Rider first down.
Weston Dressler's going to influence the defense here because he's going to come out of the backfield. You see him right here. He walks out of that circle, then he comes out of the backfield to the right, and he's going to be the short route, and the Lion defenders step up for him and leave Andy Fantus open behind him.
They've marched the football 80 yards. They have a first down. They fake that in around the Dressler. Durant pulling, and this one is intercepted. At the goal line, it's intercepted, and Ryan Phillips has his second of the night. And that's a critical turnover by the Lions defense.
Wow, he and Omar Morgan for Saskatchewan going toe-to-toe in the interception department. I wasn't sure where Darian Durant was trying to throw this football. Was it to Hugh Charles underneath right there, number 38, or was it in behind him to Andy Fantus? It looked like the ball kind of dropped in between the two of them, and in between the two of them was Ryan Phillips for his second.
Well, they had been 2 for 2 in the red zone, but that drive snuffed. The Lions take over at their own 1-yard line. Mallett turning it into the secondary. And that's a huge run by Martell Mallett, who's slow to get up.
And remember, Ian Smart already out of the lineup and in the locker room, and he's back to the huddle. Mallet is their only option as far as the tailback goes, but what a hole in the right side of that offensive line as Mallet has tons of room to run through. Is not touched till he gets into the secondary right there.
22 on the carry. They fake to Mallet, pressure on, and Pierce ducked under it. And Buck Pierce makes something out of nothing, up to the 28, close to 5. And that Roughriders defense has been turning up the heat on Pierce all night.
Well, it's Tad Cornegay again at one side. He's over here, and at the opposite side it's going to be Stevie Baggs once more, and he's been an influence tonight as well. But somehow Buck Pierce gets out of trouble. Look at Cornegay free off the edge. Now he leaves his feet, makes a mistake there, but Buck Pierce picks up a few.
Third carry for 12 yards for Buck Pierce. Second and 5. Mallet stays in, but he doesn't have much mobility right now. Pressure, Pierce, he got away, and then he's tripped. Keith Shulligan, the Spruce Grove native, upending Buck Pierce.
First-round draft pick in 2008, the 4th overall, Keith Shulligan.
And you told me he's got a pretty good nickname.
Yeah, he does. That given by Scott Schultz, who he will rotate with at the interior of that defensive line. Shulligan right in the middle of your screen. He's playing in that interior. Scott Schultz calls him Keith Schultz again because he feels he looks just like him.
McCallum just gets it away. A line drive that bounces away from Morris. He finally gets the handle and is dropped at the 35. So 3:01 left in the third quarter. We haven't had any second half scoring yet. Back in Regina, where Ray Morrison has a special guest, right?
Yes, 2007 was a big year for these Rough Rider fans. Their team won, so did the Anaheim Ducks. And here's Ryan Getzlaff here to watch brother Chris play, who's 2 years older than you. We were talking a little bit about Chris. He was a running back growing up as well.
Yeah, he played a lot of running back growing up, and he just became a receiver when he became in college football more than anything.
Of course, you get to 2-3 games a year tops. In August, you're on your way to the evaluation or orientation camp for Canada's Olympic team, one of Steve Yzerman's invitations. Talk about that. That must have been exciting.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's a pretty big honor for me, and it's just as much of an honor to be out here seeing my brother play, and he's seen me play a lot too. So.
Yeah, good stuff. The whole section is after Ryan here. We'll let him get back to pictures and autographs. Chris.
Yeah, he isn't just an invite to the tryout camp.
No, I think he's made the squad.
He's on our team. Second and 8 for the Roughriders with 4 receivers wide side. Durant is picked off. Javi Glatt with the interception. And Glatt still going. Javi Glatt down to the 5. Jeremy O'Day saves the touchdown, but the BC Lions are back in business.
Javi Glatt is going to line up right in the middle of the defensive line, and when he does, he's not counted really by Darian Durant, who never sees him drop underneath this throw. Javi Glatt's just hiding inside in here, and as he drops back now, he's just looking to pick up a receiver. But where he lined up, that took him away from the read for Darian Durant. Doesn't see him underneath that throw to, I believe it was Andy Fantus. How about the open field running by Javi Glatt?
Yeah. In his 100th CFL game. And an injured Rough Rider on the play.
You know, a lot of people were saying that Javi Glatt didn't have a great 2008. And, I'm not so sure that it wasn't a good year for Glatt. When you look at his numbers, 88 tackles, which led the team. He had 6 tackles for losses. There he is right there, hiding in the line and then dropping out. A couple of interceptions and a couple of sacks. I mean, for your middle linebacker, you want him to lead the team in tackles. Glatt did that and make some big plays in the backfield. He did that with 6 tackles for losses and a couple of sacks as well. you look at the numbers, it was a good season for Javi Glad.
8th career interception, 12 turnovers on the night. And a nice way to celebrate a milestone game.
On a game like this, with all these turnovers, I mean, you're never out of it.
Should mention we've got a delay here. Belton Johnson shaken up on that last play. The big left tackle still getting attention. And what has been a strange night is very much up for grabs here. An 11-point Rough Rider lead, but the Lions knocking at the door. And while we have this opportunity, a reminder that NASCAR Sprint Cup action continues tomorrow night on TSN as the track heats up at Daytona for the Coke 0400. Live coverage at 7:30 Eastern and 4:30 Pacific. So the Saskatchewan Roughriders have thrown interceptions on their last 2 possessions. Gene Mikowski's out. Wayne Smith is out, and this doesn't look good as Belton Johnson now on the cart.
When the quarterback throws an interception, both quarterback and offensive linemen become guys who have to go and try and find a way to get to that tackle and save a touchdown. And there's Belton Johnson. And he kind of landed on his shoulder, and then it looked like a teammate, Weston Dressler, might have landed on top of him as well. So see how he is.
So the ball on the 5-yard line, 1st and goal. And a fake to Mallet, but Pierce shed a tackle and scores. Touchdown, Buck Pierce, and the Lions back in it as Ronald Williams could not bring down the Lion quarterback.
Yeah, he's done this a few times now in the second half. Buck Pierce looks like he's caught dead to rights in the backfield. Here is Williams right here, who has a clean shot at him. Somehow Buck Pierce shakes that tackle. I mean, that's the middle linebacker, folks, and that's the guy who gets paid to make tackles. Buck Pierce shakes him there and also shakes Sean Lucas.
And the Lions leave the offense in. They'll go for 2. It's a 5-point game. Trying to make it a 3-point Saskatchewan lead. And Pierce to the goal line. Broken up. Intended for Ryan Grace Mullen. And it looked like Eddie Davis there defensively to make the play.
I think it was. Eddie Davis, whose rookie season was as a Birmingham Barracuda in the Canadian Football League. And I know most fans want to just forget about that whole experiment. It was a long time ago, 15 seasons. Big play. That could be a big play in this game.
So he was a teammate of Matt Dunnigan's.
Absolutely.
So back-to-back interceptions for Saskatchewan, and now the Lions within a touchdown of the lead.
How about Buck Pierce? I mean, he almost loses the ball there, too, with Ray Williams having a chance at him. Those are the 2 linebackers, true linebackers for the Saskatchewan Roughriders that he makes miss, because Sean Lucas led the team in tackles last year. He had 95.
Buck nearly had the ball stripped, and you saw him with the 2 hands to make sure he didn't let go.
That's a nice job of Buck Pierce to switch the ball from the right hand there when he felt Sean Lucas coming, and switch it to the left.
There's Eric Morris on the return. And he's tripped up across the 30-yard line. There's the tackle made by Ternanandi.
Well, every Friday night last year, we said a special hello to our Canadian troops serving overseas and around the world. This is a picture of Sergeant Tommy Bourgeois, a member of the 4th Engineer Support Regiment from the Canadian Forces Base, Gagetown, New Brunswick. The sergeant is looking for improvised explosive devices in the streets outside of Kandahar. We want to thank them for their service and what they do for our country. In fact, Warrant Officer Jeff Dixon said hello to us at practice yesterday. And say hello to all the troops.
Here comes pressure on Durant, and he does some nice work to get away. Belton Johnson out now.
Yeah.
And it looks like Mark Parento has moved to tackle, and Nick Hutchins, a 21-year-old with the Regina Rams last year, an All-Can West All-Star, is getting his first taste of CFL action.
Well, when you consider you have Chris Best, who was in his first true start, is in his third year with the Riders, but Best on one side of guard, and now Hutchins at the other. Hang on.
Number 17 pick in the draft, going against a lethal offensive defensive line. All over the head of Fantuz. And the pressure was on Durant.
Well, of course, what do the Lions front four do automatically is they throw a stunt at them, meaning they're not blitzing. They're just going to do some crisscrossing with one guy going in one direction and another guy looping around. And what they want to try and do is confuse those young offensive linemen. And the change, you can see a little bit of a stunt run there by Brent Johnson.
No, it's not that far. Oh.
Darren Toney back on this punt return.
They want to rest, I think, the Lions now with Ian Smart out of the game and Martell Mallett a little banged up. They're improvising on the teams.
Yeah, Toney and I believe Dante Marsh has dropped deep. And there is indeed the veteran corner, Dante Marsh. It'll be Toney backpedaling to his 35. Got a block from Marsh. Trying to get outside, and then he dropped it. And that can happen when you got different people. Returning Sean Lucas up with the ball. 31 dropped it, 31 picked it up. Somebody oiled the footballs tonight. Sorry, Darren Toney dropped the ball.
You're right. Who put the grease on the pigskin? It has been all over the turf tonight. And I don't think Darren Toney was really hit. He was just breaking one direction and it came out.
There's a penalty marker on the play, so we'll await to find out if the 13th turnover of the night is officially in the books.
Is that a baker's dozen on turnovers?
Well, the Lions just celebrating what they heard from the officials.
Prior to possession, lose, illegal block, BC number 83, major foul, face mask, Saskatchewan number 11. The end result of the play will be up 5 yards, BC first down. And one more.
So Greg Hetherington and Aaron Wagner, the culprits, and Wagner's offense was more serious, and the Lions get the ball back.
Take a look for Aaron Wagner here. And the face mask, it looked like it might have impeded the Lion to get to the ball, the face mask, and that's why they give it back to the Lions.
Huge break. Now the final play of the quarter, and Ryan Grace Mullen has it. Morgan hangs on to make sure he doesn't go any further. Well, it's going to be an interesting fourth quarter. A wild night at Regina and a 5-point Rough Rider lead. Third quarter stats brought to you by Tim Hortons. Always fresh, always.
Well, the Saskatchewan Roughriders had a couple of 100 yards in the first half, so their offense is bogged down a little bit. And a couple of mistakes by both quarterbacks who are young, experience-wise. Looks like Buck Pearson is starting to get things going, and he's doing it with his legs, avoiding some sacks and making plays extending the play with his legs.
Rough Riders did not lose a third quarter lead all last year, but this one feels pretty precarious right now, doesn't it?
Well, especially with all the turnovers in this game. I mean, this game could go either way. It seems like the team that can hang on to the football the best will prevail here.
We're going to revisit the penalty that allowed the Lions to maintain possession momentarily, but let's set up 1st and 10 at the Saskatchewan 54. More pressure, ball delivered, and G-Roy Simon, who's had a quiet night, has the catch and another penalty marker on the play, and G-Roy grabs his right knee.
Oh boy. He has been quiet tonight.
Just his 3rd catch.
Major foul, roughing the passer, Saskatchewan number 48. 15-yard penalty will be enforced from the end of the play. 1st down.
Ray Williams, who didn't bring down Pierce on the touchdown run, wanted an extra shot that time.
The entire West Coast concerned right now because the penalty gives the Lions even better yardage on this play, but more importantly, there's a late hit on Buck Pierce by Ray Williams. But most importantly for BC fans, what happens to G-Roy Simon? Because he's not getting up. Cornegay, see how he rolls under his knee, and it looked like his foot got caught. And Cornegay put his body weight on the right knee, G-Roy Simon.
So Smart down in this game. Now Simon down. Belton Johnson is left. Emmanuel Arsenault also injured. So 3 key components of the BC Lions offense.
Well, and this is the biggest one, though, Chris. I mean, you got career 11,000 plus yards from G-Roy Simon. Good news for Lions fans that he can get up and put a little pressure on that knee. 5-time All-Canadian. Lions all-time leader.
6 straight 1,000-yard seasons, and was kind of waiting for the Lions to start leaning on him a bit this second half. Instead, they go double tights as Simon leads the game. First and 10. Mallet with the burst. Brought down at the 33.
Rider fans probably still wondering why the Lions even have the ball in this possession, because it looked like it was fumbled on the punt return, but this is being a little bit blurry here unless you have high definition, in which case you'll see it perfectly. And the problem was that Aaron Wagner's penalty happened before the Lions' Darren Toney lost possession. So there it is there. We moved it around. You can see the face mask there. That happened before the fumble occurred. Therefore, Lions maintain possession.
2nd and 6. Pierce over the middle, and that ball incomplete. Intended for the fullback, Rolly Lambala. So 3rd down, and Paul McCallum in the field goal unit likely to come on.
Buck Pierce is upset with himself there because Lambala was just a little crossing route. Had he got him the football earlier, he had the 1st down. And that's exactly what Wally Buono is telling his quarterback. Make that read a little bit quicker, a little bit behind the throw.
Punt team on.
Wow.
A little surprised at this.
It is into a little bit of wind, but it's not much.
No, that's not a Saskatchewan win.
Well, nowhere near when you talk at Saskatchewan.
So no 40-yard attempt. They'll go coffin corner. And does he get it? No.
No, he doesn't.
So it's 1 point and a 4-point lead. And a little bit of a surprise on that decision. Lions actually lose 2 yards on the exchange. Darian Durant buried for a sack as Jeremy Gibbs and Ricky Foley get to the quarterback here. Foley, even last year with Cameron Wake lighting up the league, was impatient. He wasn't getting his chance to play defensive end, and helps get the quarterback.
Saskatchewan staying with the passing game, even though they've had injuries up front. They have some youngsters on the O-line. You can tell it's tough for Darian Durant.
That's a loss of 6 and 2nd and 16. And Durant dumps it off. Huge hit. A separator from Javi Glatt on Hugh Charles. And Mr. Glatt set himself a second half.
This time the Lions show blitz. Javi Glatt is behind the goalpost to start out in disguise. Then he drops out. That's exactly how he got his interception earlier in the game. This time he times it up, and that's a pretty good hit.
5th possession, second half, Saskatchewan. Ouch.
It's great to have football back, isn't it? Maybe not for Hugh Charles right at that minute, but
3 punts, 2 interceptions for the Roughriders here in the second half.
Hugh Charles has made his plays tonight, too.
Still digesting the Buono decision.
Yes, interesting.
Running start at it by Borum. And it'll be Dante Marsh. And he's nailed up across the 35-yard line as the hitting gets a little more intense. Roger Jays baseball continues Tuesday on TSN as the Jays travel to Tampa Bay to take on the division rival Rays. Live coverage 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific.
Baseball would be better if there was more hitting. I mean, like physical.
You're not talking about bats and balls.
No, I'm not.
Lions first down. Pierce for time. Rolling Lumbala. And Eddie Davis is going to call for pass interference. He was on the back of Lumbala.
This one is going to be close.
Pass interference. Saskatchewan with 21. First down.
Eddie Davis looked like he timed this pretty good. He's very upset with the call. He's right there as he tracks Lumbala down the seam. Well, the contact was just before the ball arrived, but he didn't grab him with his right hand, and Davis actually touched the football in the air before it got there.
I was surprised that Lumbala was the stretch receiver on that play. Costly penalty. And now Mallett. And he runs through an arm tackle. Martel Mallett, who looked like he was in some serious difficulty in the third quarter, with a good burst there in a first down run.
You talk about Lumbala being the stretch guy. You're right, a bit of a surprise, Chris, but it's right down at the bottom of your screen here. But because of his size, he may have drawn the flag here on Eddie Davis, because if that's a real receiver, Davis probably doesn't make any contact with him at all, just touches the ball before it's arrived.
12 for Mallett. He has 6 for 64 in the night. First and 10. Play action, pressure. Chick couldn't reach him. And Pierce gets down to the 39.
Boy, this Rider defense has played pretty well all night long, but, you know, the one thing I think they'll talk about during the film sessions during the week will be that they ran past a lot of potential sacks, and this time it's going to be John Chick, who is right down at the bottom of your screen here. And Chick is the guy who's going to, if he breaks down, he has Buck Pierce in the backfield right there, but he runs by him. Tad Kornicki's done it a couple of times as well tonight. They could have had 3 or 4 more sacks to the total.
Excuse me, the ball on the 34, a 3-yard pickup for Pierce, and it's 2nd and 7. More pressure, look out, Pierce taken down by Sean Lucas, and it's Rough Rider football. Omar Morgan got there to knock it out of bounds, and somehow Pierce trying to get up after that enormous jolt from Sean Lucas. Glenn, there were a lot of questions about what Gary Etcheverry's defense would look like. I think the fans in Saskatchewan like it.
Sean Lucas is coming off the edge, and Lumbala looked like he was a tight end there and had to read whether or not Lucas was blitzing or not. He took off on his pass route and left Lucas wide open off the corner. And that's a blind shot in the middle of the shoulder blades on Buck Pierce.
Well, that looked looked a lot like a sack on Dave Dickinson a few years ago. Was that Jackie Mitchell a number of years ago or Fred Perry?
It wasn't a few, but I believe it was Mitchell. You're right, that big one. And similar to that, that's a clean shot. I mean, defenders love it. Whether you be a blitzing halfback off the edge or a linebacker, you get that clean shot, boy. Cause havoc, and it does. Turnover. Not yet. I wouldn't be here. Look at them all.
13th turnover, and they mark it at the 35-yard line. Roughrider football. And Hugh Charles is upended, and that was a nice tackle by a newcomer, Gary Butler. And good news for the Lions. Buck Pierce is up and on the phone.
Let's show that blitz again. There's Lumbala here. Now he's going to take off on the pass route. Now I'm not sure of the assignment that he has on this offensive play. He took off pretty quickly, but clearly someone had to check blitz on the outside. If it wasn't Lumbala, then it had to be Walter Stith to come out and make sure he gets anyone off the edge. That was Sean Lucas untouched.
Second and 9. Darian Durant has Weston Dressler. Down to the 30. And finally tossed down at the 21.
Oh, you got to love this from Weston Dressler. And I'm talking about the very end of the play. There's a late flag.
Late flag's well away from where Dressler finally went out. And Dressler over 100 yards on the night if this catch stands.
$2,224 all-purpose yards for Weston Dressler in 2008.
Biggest offensive play.
At the end of the play, major foul, unnecessary roughness, Saskatchewan 89, 15-yard penalty will be enforced from the end of the play, first down.
So Chris Getzlaff, but the play will stand 43 yards forward, and they'll march it back 15.
Starts in the backfield, and he's just going to layer across the middle. Perfect throw from Durant. I love the end because he could have stepped out of bounds there, cuts back in and to take a hit, but pick up another 7. Now the penalty will move it back to the 36.
And the Saskatchewan-BC rivalry is back at a fever pitch. First down, Durant looking for Stu Ford and can't bring it down.
Anton McKenzie was step for step with Stu Ford out of the backfield.
Another penalty, and it looks like it's going to be roughing the passer against BC.
Major foul, roughing the passer, low block on the quarterback. BC number 72, 15-yard penalty, first down.
So Jeremy Gibbs called.
Jeremy Gibbs gets the call here because it's a low hit. The strike zone on the quarterback is above the knees and below the shoulders. He's being pushed down, yes. You cannot hit the quarterback below the knees.
The replacement for the departed Tyrone Williams. Hugh Charles. Inside the 20-yard line. Aaron Hunt hanging on with Javi Glatt.
Something a little bit surprising in this game is how there's been some undisciplined penalties from these teams. Both Ken Miller and Wally Buono are guys that really preach discipline and good decision-making on the field. I know this is a rivalry, and it's been physical. You got to keep your composure.
The first All-Western matchup of the year has picked up where we left off a year ago. Durant, quarterback draw again to the 15-yard line. And he'll be short of the first down. So the field goal unit, led by Luka Kanji, will come on.
You know, Anton McKenzie plays this different. Remember the touchdown, Darian Durant on that quarterback draw? Well, this time, Anton McKenzie, right here in the middle of your screen, number 42, he's not in the line of scrimmage here. He's back off. He's almost spying Darian Durant. He said, you know, I've seen this one before. I'm going to step in the hole and not allow you that first down.
Roughriders looking for their first points of the second half. And Kanji from the 22-yard line.
Marsh.
Puts it through, and it's a 7-point Saskatchewan lead with just under 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Tonight's game story brought to you by Molson Canadian. This is our beer.
You see all the turnovers. It's been a wild game from that perspective. Buck Pierce and Darian Durant sort of have had different halves. Darian Durant, good in the first half. That offense has stalled a little bit in the second. Weston Dressler, a couple big plays again. He's off to a good start in 2009. Doesn't look like there'll be a sophomore jinx for Dressler.
Booming kick by Jamie Borum, and it's dropped at the goal line. And now Mallet goes to work. And runs hard. Does well just to get it beyond the 15-yard line.
Buck Pierce has taken some shots tonight, a total of 6 sacks, and it could have been worse so far because the Riders have missed him a couple of times. But that Gary Echeverry defense looks good out of the gate here. Ray Williams there, 6 sacks in this game. Consider last year the Lions offensive line gave up 33 sacks total. That's less than 2 per game.
And the Roughriders average less than 2 sacks a game. Pierce on a short drop, but now has to look over the middle, and Bryce Mullen's got the catch in front of Omar Morgan. A first down for the Lions at the BC 30.
Well, Buck Pierce gets a little time there. Again, changes up front for the BC Lions, so not a big surprise that there's been some defensive pressure on both sides. Talk about that left side of the line with Dean Valley there in his 4th year, but his first year as a starter. Walter Stith, who this time really locks down Luke Mullender at that left side.
15 for Ryan Grice Mullender. Did not play in the preseason because of hamstring issues. 4-man rush, and this time protection was there initially, and then Pierce has to throw it away.
Pierce has to throw it away. He's having trouble finding an open receiver, and one guy that's been quiet was banged up was G-Roy Simon. And G-Roy Simon is trying to tough it out. He's working on Lance Frazier here, but you can see he's just struggling a little bit to get separation from Frazier. So the all-star receiver is struggling a little bit trying to fight through that injury.
You wonder at this point if he's just not the highest paid decoy in the league.
Yeah.
Second and 10. More pressure and another sack as Chucky Adams gets to the quarterback.
Now again, a different type of formation. Adams right in the middle here. And he is going to get the pressure, but look at the stack. You got Ray Williams behind 2 interior defensive linemen, and there comes 51 with a nice swim move. Buck Pierce just does not have a chance there. He's right there. Swim move on Shirko Haji-Razuli.
Morris at his 45. Got through the ankle tackle and gets it to the 52. You know, Glenn, you walk around Regina the last couple of days and people weren't sure what kind of team they had here, and it wasn't exactly brimming with confidence, but win or lose tonight, and they have a 7-point lead with under 6 minutes to go. I think Rough Rider fans probably are a little more confident than they were 24 hours ago.
Without question, you know, and I've been saying all week as well that the Riders are, over the last few years, have really played. They've been a reflection of this community, really, which is to play tough and hard all the time, no matter what adversity they face. Consider last year.
Here's Durant going to work, rolling, and just throws it away, and a marker on the play, on the backside of the play.
That was way away from the action. But one of the questions, and maybe the biggest one, was on Darian Durant and whether or not he could lead the team. He had a real good first half, except for one throw, an interception to Ryan Phillips. Has made a couple of mistakes, but look, this is the guy's 5th start.
Holding Saskatchewan number 66. 10-yard penalty.
He will make mistakes. That penalty on Chris Best there, who's been matched up and doing all right against Aaron Hunt most of the night.
Again, Belton Johnson, if you joined us late, is out. No Gene Mikowski or Wayne Smith. Mike Abimeshek was in that starting lineup last year. He did not return. So it's a different group up front protecting Darian Durant, who looks for Dressler, the most dangerous guy tonight for Saskatchewan. Weston Dressler to back up to midfield. 14 for number 7.
The angle from Anton McKenzie gives Dressler a chance. You can see he just sits down in the zone. Now McKenzie cuts underneath him a little bit. Then when he tries to regain that angle, Dressler is able to shake him.
Dressler had a 146-yard game against the Lions last year. He's bettered that tonight. His best game in the CFL. Second down. Durant takes off. And he'll be close to the first down. I think he's got it. He'll move the chains with his legs.
You know, you consider last year, Chris, that Saskatchewan Roughriders Ken Miller's squad went through so many injuries, and then they're going with the young quarterback in Durant this year. They cut Bishop. Questions there. The defense was a huge question mark with the loss of Richie Hall, the defensive coordinator, Maurice Lloyd, the middle linebacker, Kitwana Jones, who had all kinds of stats. Could Gary Echeverry put together the same type of defense? This defense has looked very good tonight. I don't think there's a worry on the defensive side, certainly for Rider fans here.
First down, Hugh Charles, and he runs into a lot of white and orange. And Javi Glatt in the middle of it. And so with 3.5 minutes left and the clock running, it'll be a 2nd and long Saskatchewan. So Darian Durant, who has not lost as a starter, over 300 yards on the night, nursing a 7-point lead.
Well, with 14 yards to go in this key play, but a banged-up offensive line, you wonder about screen draw. I know it's a long way to go, but you know they're going to pin their ears back on the D-line.
Here they come. And Durant goes down in midfield. As Anton McKenzie, the former Rough Rider, with the sack, the 3-minute warning given here at Mosaic. 7-point Rider lead. The Friday Night Gladiator is brought to you by Movado. The Movado 800 series is all about the art of performance, where serious sports function meets power design.
That's the Series 800. Beautiful watch that the players are loving. There's a couple of finalists. We can't name one just yet. Usually we have them by now. Javi Glatt's a finalist right now, I would think. I mean, Ryan Phillips in front of him, Tad Cornegay and Omar Morgan. The 4 finalists right now are standing together. And we have to decide, we'll see who wins this football game, but it's that close.
And we might have more than 2.5 minutes to go. In a 7-point game, Saskatchewan has it blocked. Another block punt. And the BC Lions, down by 7, will enjoy great field position as Jason Araki, a special team demon as a rookie, comes up with the 2nd punt block of the night for the BC Lions.
There he is from the top of the line for the BC Lions, coming off the edge, and he lays out for this one. He goes right to the block point, not the punter. 32 special teams tackles. Jason Araki makes a big play there.
8th turnover for the Riders on the night. From the 33, Pierce swings it out, and Mallet is jolted right at the 30, short gain.
Big hit there from Omar Morgan, who was a finalist for the Gladiator. But this crowd's going to be difficult now for Buck Pierce. Has been all game long. But right now, they're going to turn it up a notch. They're an educated crowd. They know when to cheer and when to make it tough from the quarterback. How that's tough now is Buck Pierce will have trouble changing the play on the line of scrimmage if he has to.
Stevie Baggs got his paw on it. 2:01 on the clock. And a decision. Wally Buono is going to leave the offense out, I think.
Comes down to one play. And you know, Stevie Baggs is an outside finalist for Gladiator as well tonight. He's put together a pretty good game.
And after a long delay, they
are going to go for the
field goal team comes on.
You know, 2 minutes is a lot of time.
But it's a 7-point game. Does 3 do you any good?
Yeah, you're right.
Well, they hope it does.
You know, it's interesting, though. You go back 5-6 minutes ago, the Lions, Wally Buono had a 40-yard field goal attempt and elected to punt then. And now, to close it to 4, he still needs a major.
I guess he thinks he's got time for more than one score. Or, well, they do break up the tie possibility, and I'm sure that's the most important thing here.
And I will say this, too. With 2 minutes left, you can kick it deep here. And if you've got a 2-possession game to win it.
Yeah, he wasn't thinking about tie. He's thinking about scoring again to win. Now,
then you take the points. I got to think that's what Wally Buono was thinking there. But
we have often debated, and I was smiling about his decision on the punt instead of a field goal, because he had everybody debating when in overtime a couple of years ago here, he elected to try and kick punt for the single instead of kick a field goal, and that didn't work and was hotly debated.
Well,
but we will remind you, he's going to be the winningest coach in CFL history in the not-too-distant future.
Just the 227 wins. He's made those decisions a few times.
48 of the 52 points scored tonight have come off turnovers. And our stats man, John Russin, has worn out a few pencils. Weston Dressler's back for this kick return. Is there a flag? The fans are asking for one. That's the rookie, James Juracek, out of Bishop's, making some noise and maybe getting away with one.
Well, I'm not so sure that there shouldn't have been a penalty here. It looked like Weston Dressler was way out of bounds, and he was still pulled down. Now, Juracek was kind of just holding on and being dragged out of bounds. That could have been a flag. He may have got away with one there.
And the other sport I cover, that's putting away the whistle late in the game.
Yeah.
Charles straight ahead across the 30 to the 32, and a good first down production for Hugh Charles.
And the Lions need a major, which means that not only the time on the clock is an issue here for Mike Benavides in this defense, but also the field position. So he doesn't want to stop in one more set of downs. He needs it right now. He gets a chance with decent field position for Buck Pierce, and he has enough time on the clock.
3.5, 4 yards to go. Big play here. Sark to the fullback to the two-back offense. Charles, second man through. And he gets to the 35, and he's going to be close. Javi Glatt there. It looks like he's short of the first down, and no hesitation. Ken Miller sends out Jamie Borum, so the Lions get the stop they need, and Javi Glatt makes another play.
Boy, and that's a big one. And remember, the BC Lions, Jason Araki just blocked a punt. Wally Buono will call a timeout here. And Javi Glatt fills nicely here as he slides from one side of the formation, nice and slow plays it, puts his helmet right in the middle of the back of Hugh Charles to hold him short.
Well, he said he played most of last year with a tendon problem in his calf. He was not 100%, gritted through it, got some heat. And he came back in outstanding condition this year.
Yeah, Chris, he's put on some good weight. And good weight, I mean muscle weight. He's back up to 225. I thought he was a little light last year coming out of training camp. You know, and again, people said he didn't have a great season. I thought, you look at the numbers, he really did. A very good season.
You know, we've talked a lot about Hugh Charles tonight, but it would have been a nice time to give Wes Cates the ball on a critical play.
Yeah.
Instead, a punt from Bourne. And it goes over the head of Darren Toney. Back to his 25. And he is dropped inside the 25. Ray Williams finishes him off. So it's a long field with 73 seconds to go. A 50-yard punt. And a loss of 2 on the return.
Well, this is the downside of youth right here from Darren Toney. Because for the BC Lions, he had to catch this football in the air. It wasn't necessarily about the return, but he hesitates right at the last second, allows it to bounce 2-3 yards in front of him. And that's not a round ball, folks. It can bounce in any direction.
Listen to this crowd.
Disruptive. It really is. Not just in the play calling, but in the player's ability to focus and concentrate. When that crowd is going off the hook and you're coming out of the backfield, it is a distraction, without question. That was a simple play.
First down catch. Big play by Buck Pierce to get another set of downs. 61 seconds left. And a 4-point Saskatchewan lead. No timeout left.
A lot of real estate in front of Buck Pierce.
You know, it's been an early season performance by these two teams, but this crowd's in mid-season form. Pressure. And they'll make more now. Stevie Baggs.
John Chick from the top of your screen here is going to cause the problems initially. He comes in from the top, gets a push, or excuse me, it's the inside Scott Schultz who causes Buck Pierce to step up, and Stevie Baggs gets it.
Second and 21. Loose ball, and they're ruling an incompletion. Chick turning up the heat, and it's down to one last play for the Lions to try and keep it alive.
And it's 3rd and a ton. To Buck Pierce, with this crowd going off, it seems like 3rd and a mile.
This isn't an exaggeration. I've never heard it this loud. Pierce to the new slot back Paris Jackson. Wow. And a 30-yard gain on 3rd and 21.
And the volume, it was like someone pulled the plug in the stereo. Buck Pierce, with poise in the pocket, gets a little time. For the first time in this drive, there's a rider down. This will give the Lions time to call a couple of plays. It gets Jacques Chapdelaine a chance to talk to his starting quarterback.
Luke Mullender is down, and that's a concern for Saskatchewan, and a break for the Lions to get this series mapped out.
Well, for Lions fans, finally the front five for the BC Lions man up with a little protection here. Just three-man pressure, however, from the Riders. But Buck Pierce steps in there on the throw to Paris Jackson over the middle, makes a big catch to keep the hopes alive for BC. That was a bunch of yards in front of Buck Pierce.
Martel Mallet lowered the boom on Mullender.
Now remember, a field goal not good enough.
So Stitt stood Mullender up and Mallet with the hammer.
That's called a chip block, but we'll call it the hammer block in that case.
You know, it has not been perfect football, but it's not that way to start Friday Night Football for a new season.
It's been fun, and we're going to go right down the last 29 seconds, too.
They told us Beggs had an exceptional preseason, and he's carried it over tonight.
Well, in fact, Ken Miller, people questioned about the trade with Kitwana Jones. Ken Miller said Stevie Beggs is playing well, and I think he may have actually started a defensive end even if Kitwana Jones was still here. He's had a heck of a game.
Well, time a major issue now. And he couldn't bring down the Buck Pierce pass.
Well, first of all, Paris Jackson picks up a blitzing Sean Lucas to give Buck Pierce a chance, and it looked like Ryan Grice-Mullen slowed down as he came out and around of Eddie Davis, and that little hesitation cost him at the end of the play, because then he made what could have been an easy catch for a touchdown, a game-winning touchdown. He made it difficult because it was on the opposite shoulder, and it falls out of his hands.
They converted on 3rd and 10, and now Jarius Jackson, the stronger arm, comes in.
It's time to Hail Mary.
3rd and 10. From the bench, into the fray, looking deep, jump ball, intercepted. And the game over as James Patrick, the safety, is going to fall down and celebrate. What a night in Saskatchewan, and fittingly, it ends with a turnover. The 50th turnover of the night finishes it, and Ken Miller's Roughriders win a wild opener at Mosaic. Roughriders win, and time for our Gladiator.
Well, this one went right down to the wire. Stevie Beggs had a chance, Javi Glatt, but a couple of defensive backs made big plays early. Omar Morgan was one of them. Ryan Phillips, the other for the Lions. Saskatchewan hangs on. A couple of big picks for Morgan, and I like this hit. Late in the game, he steps in to the running back Mallet, and that's a big hit from the outside corner. Omar Morgan is our Gladiator tonight.
Tonight's Gladiator will receive a Movado Series 800 watch. A lot of questions about Ken Miller's squad coming into this game. They answered some tonight with the victory, 28-24, a wild night. So long from Mosaic.